It all started on the 8th floor of this crazy, tall tower, where everything was just ice and snow everywhere. A huge army of knights was marching through the blizzard, following this tough-looking guy with blonde hair. That dude was Kazuki, the top dog of the Blue Zone Guild, and he wasn't here to play around. He raised his hand and told his army to stop, making it super clear that they were here. While Kazuki was giving his pep talk, he spotted some new folks showing up through the snow, total boss vibes. Leading that new squad was a man with some serious presence and piercing blue eyes. This was Subaru Norukami, leader of the Blue Eyes Guild, and #1 in the rankings. He had a golden black mask, hiding his face, so you knew he meant business. Kazuki greeted him, sounded pretty friendly, and our boy said sorry for being late. But his comrade shut that down right away, telling him, actually, he was the first to arrive. Then Subaru asked if the Muram Alliance was joining them this time. Kazuki let him know that our protagonist was leading the charge and threw some shade, saying he thought the Muram Alliance just wanted to scoop up all the leftover loot. But our boy didn't care about that drama. Instead, he handed Kazuki a super rare item, Archangel's Pool. This thing could instantly bring back half your stamina if you were totally wiped out, and his comrade was straight up shocked. Our boy got really serious and said he wanted to win this fight no matter what, so he was giving the item just in case something went wrong. Kazuki, feeling reluctant, asked if it was okay to give him this kind of special item. Our boy just said to him that he can give it back later, which made Kazuki go quiet for a second, kind of emotional. Then our boy just put his hand on his comrade's shoulder and said, if he didn't want to give it back, then just keep the item. No big deal. But suddenly, things got nuts. Both of them felt this insane pressure, like something huge was coming. They realized the boss monster was showing up early. Boom. Out of the blizzard, the biggest, scariest sea dragon Hydra appeared, with so many heads and a crazy lightning vibe. Kazuki started yelling at everyone to get ready, because the fight was about to start. The sea dragon Hydra started charging up a huge attack from all its mouths. Our MC just stared at it, totally unimpressed, and called it ugly. Black and gold energy started covering his fist, and even the system sent out a message saying lightning was flowing through his body. Subaru was super confident and announced that today was the day they'd finally take this ugly beast out. The Hydra fired its powerful breath attack, and Kazuki freaked out, yelling for everyone to take cover. But our MC wasn't scared at all. He went forward, drew his sword, and told everybody not to bother hiding. Kazuki could hardly believe what our boy was doing. And then bam! He slashed his sword so fast and hard, it crashed right into the monster's attack, making this massive explosion that blew the Hydra's breath away and ripped a giant line through the battlefield. Kazuki is behind our MC, who has just fended off the ugly monster's attack. Meanwhile, Subaru's team was just staring, totally shocked. The witch said something about all that training finally paying off. Another fighter was annoyed he missed out on the first attack. Dude was just one step too slow. The girl on Subaru's team asked him what he had handed over to Kazuki earlier, but he only said she'd find out later. He turned back to his squad, asked if they were ready, and declared it was finally time to kill this damn dragon. Everyone got their weapons ready. Kazuki just watched from behind with a sarcastic grin, thinking how ridiculous their power of friendship was. Then, his captain told him the troops were standing by, exactly as planned. He gave them a suspicious command and said they should get moving. Then, they just watch as our MC and his team fight the monster together. He looks unpleasantly at Subaru's team mage, who stands there to back their team up. Total chaos broke out then. Everybody rushed the giant dragon, which was roaring and going absolutely wild. The ashen-haired dude told his teammate, a masked lady, not to be careless. Then she just sliced one of the monster's parts, like it was nothing, calling it a walk in the park. After that, the ashen-hair guy attacked the monster with massive ice power and told the masked lady to be more careful. Then, a red-haired warrior with red energy ran in, betting his friends he could deal the most damage, and pierced the Hydra with a huge hit. Then, a guy with twin daggers took the bet instantly, saying the loser had to buy dinner. He jumped in with his crazy violet slash, moving so fast, and chopped off one of the dragon's heads. He even warned Chino, shouting at her to watch out for the falling head. Shino didn't even stress she was ready, telling him to keep attacking. She whipped up a giant pink magic shield, saying defense was her specialty. Kazuki suddenly appeared behind Chino. He whispered her name, all cold, and asked if she could block this attack too. She looked completely shocked. Before she could do anything, Kazuki stabbed his sword straight through her back, poking out her chest. He just sounded bored, saying their problem was being too confident. Subaru saw the whole thing and freaked out, calling Chino's name, looking like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Poor Chino just dropped to the ground, dead, with blood everywhere. Kazuki stood there, covered in her blood and smiling like a maniac, then turned to our MC and told him to focus on the monster instead of him. Our poor boy Subaru was just frozen, totally confused as to why Kazuki had just betrayed them like that. But he doesn't realize that the monster is very close and ready to eat him like a snack. At the exact moment the dragon was about to crush our boy, his mind did a total rewind. He remembered those weird system messages that showed up for everyone, that big announcement from the tower, picking them for some insane climb, basically telling them to get ready because it was all about to start soon. Back then, nobody had a clue if that message was some kind of blessing or just a curse in disguise. Even now, nobody really got what it meant. But the whole world listened anyway, and everyone started climbing the tower, chasing after a top that nobody had ever reached. People from all kinds of places, Earth, Muram, and even more worlds got dragged into this, and with their own secret missions, they just kept climbing, day after day. But dude, reality sucked big time. The scene just turned into a straight-up nightmare. All around our MC, his teammates were down, bodies everywhere, blood on the ice. Subaru was still standing after taking out that crazy Hydra, but he was breathing hard and looking around like he couldn't believe it. He started blaming his friends in his head, thinking they should have listened when he told them to escape. He regretted that they ignored him, and now, here he was, just sitting, completely drained, in front of that so-called unbeatable beast. They actually took the thing down, but this win felt totally empty. He looked at his fallen crew and told them, feeling totally crushed, that they were idiots for dying. He hadn't given them permission to go out like that. Then, wham, those system alerts started popping up for him. They warned that he was poisoned and couldn't heal naturally, and his fatigue was critical. The system basically said he was toast if his fatigue hit 100. And bro, that number was getting way too close. You could see in his eyes that he was pissed, but still ready to fight. Right then, Kazuki came strolling over, cold as ice, calling Subaru the Light Lightning Lord, like that was some kind of twisted compliment. Our protagonist shot him a look and demanded to know why this bastard stabbed them in the back. So, Kazuki walked up, acting all dramatic. He said he'd been coming for this day for 10 whole years, and that Subaru should understand better than anyone. He got up close, with this evil little smile, and said this was the only way he had a shot at beating our boy. He admitted that he used our protagonist team to distract him because otherwise they'd just get in his way. Then this bastard just lost it a bit, yelling about how our boy had always given him too much, and now he was totally over it. The dude picked the world instead of his friend, and didn't even try to hide it. He talked to our dying MC with a sarcastic laugh, telling, if that's a real shame, it had to end like this. Kazuki pulled out that Archangel's Pool, the rare item Subaru had given him earlier, and this bastard, with his evil grin, was telling him that he would keep it from now on, since when our boy dies, the Blue Eyes Guild would be gone for good. Harsh. As he started to leave, this bastard told our dying MC not to be sad because at least he'd go down as a legend in the history books, an extremely ironic taunt. Then, our hero just stared at him, with a bloody face, and gave a savage, sarcastic smile. He pointed out that Kazuki only ever heard what he wanted to, right up to the last second. And even though Subaru knew he was probably done for, there was no way he'd just lie down and die. Nope, our boy decided to go out fighting. He fired up his last skills, and Kazuki just freaked out, yelling that it was impossible. Our dying MC got to his feet, still bleeding, and gripped the legendary A-less fan, the one that spits out insane wind. He powered it up, telling Kazuki nothing about his plan, and you could see those determined eyes. The fan had 4 charges left, and he planned to use every single one. He thought of the 4 survivors from his team still hanging back, and with a giant blast of wind, he shoved them way off the battlefield, screaming that they needed to save themselves. Kazuki finally realized what was up and shouted at his soldiers to chase them down, like, now. The Muram fighters scrambled to follow orders, but Subaru wasn't having it. He stood right in their way, made a ball of lightning in his hand, and dared them to try and get past. His system warning was going nuts, fatigue at 95, and thunder started cracking in the sky, showing that his Lightning Lord power was almost out of time. Lightning came crashing down everywhere, making the whole place an electric nightmare. Kazuki watched with shaky nerves, calling Subaru stubborn for not giving up. With his fatigue at 96, Subaru rushed forward with his weapon ready, and this absolutely scary aura around him. He couldn't help but wonder what Kazuki promised these guys to make them crazy enough to fight him head-on. Now our dying protagonist stood in front of a whole crowd of enemies, warning them that the price for attacking would be their lives. With his eyes glowing and his body busted up, he told everyone that nobody was allowed off the battlefield unless he said so. The enemy troops were provoked. It was fight or die. So, they charged at him. They think that he's outnumbered, so it'll be easy to kill him. Subaru fought back like a total legend, spinning his spear and blocking their swords, thinking that normally, these guys wouldn't be such a threat. But he knew if Kazuki jumped in, things could get really bad. He felt a little better now that his friends had gotten far away, but he was pushing the limit as his fatigue hit 97. He blocked another attack, feeling the pain get worse, but kept swinging anyway as his fatigue spiked up to 98. Then one of the soldiers finally landed a heavy hit, making him stumble. That gave the rest of them the opening they needed, and suddenly everybody was swinging at him from all sides. Blood went flying, soldiers screamed, and our MC was right in the middle of the chaos. Man, things just went from bad to insane. In the midst of the chaos, the Blue Zone soldiers started cheering like crazy, thinking they had finally finished off our boy for good. They really believed they pulled off the impossible, but bro, they seriously had no idea who they were dealing with. Right then, Subaru's voice came out all charged up, asking the crowd who exactly they thought they just killed. The soldiers turned and saw his eyes glowing gold, and in the next instant, lightning exploded out of him like a bomb. The shock was so strong it zapped the guys all around him, struck them, until they all fainted like they were trash. Bodies landed all over the ice, and the poor guy just dropped to his knees, pulled out the sword that was stuck in his chest, and was totally wiped out. The rest of the soldiers just stood there, terrified, and whispering about how this guy was a real monster who just wouldn't stay down no matter what they did. Kazuki stood far away, watching the whole mess with this cold smile, acting like he thought there was no way our MC could survive this. Suddenly, things were getting serious for our MC. That red system warning popped up, showing his fatigue was at 99%. It said if he hit 100, that was game over. He was dead for sure. But our protagonist pulled himself together, using whatever strength he had left, and started talking to Kazuki. He reminded Kazuki that if anyone should know, it was he, who always wins in the end. Our hero let out this insane scream, calling his victory, and threw his last spear with everything he had. The thing was glowing with lightning, shooting across the battlefield at impossible speed. Kazuki was standing there, holding the Archangel's Pool Jewel, super confident that he was safe. He even tried to act all cool, offering a sarcastic goodbye to Subaru. But then everything changed. Our boy's spear was thrown straight at his face, blowing it up and ruining this bastard's whole survival plan. The dude was so shocked he couldn't even talk. Then it all went dark for Subaru. His mind started slipping away, but even as he passed out, he told himself he was the true winner. He couldn't even see if Kazuki finally died, and he knew he looked pathetic, but deep down, he was sure his final throw landed. After that, there was only darkness, and our MC wondered if he was just stuck in some kind of void forever. Suddenly, a nasty smell hit his nose, and he heard the weirdest noise. He opened his eyes and, what the hell? He was inside a gross metal trash bin, in some filthy alley. The poor guy freaked out, wondering if this was hell. Then, a status screen popped up in front of him. It said his name was Subaru Hosoi, Level 1. He just stared at it, totally in shock and denial. That's when his old memories started coming back. They threw out some pretty harsh words, telling him he would never be even half the man the legendary Subaru Narukami was 20 years ago. Now that was a real insult. Our MC was still processing all that when he heard a voice in his head telling him he actually died 20 years ago. He looked at his reflection in some dirty glass and realized this wasn't his original body at all. He totally panicked, thinking this had to be some insane nightmare, and jumped out of the trash bin in a hurry. He fell onto the street, breathing hard and just trying to get it together. That's when he noticed a tablet sitting nearby. He recognized it as a player kit, the kind that could help him figure out what was going on in this crazy world. He quickly used it to look up the Blue Eyes Guild, but the info that popped up was all about the Blue Zone instead. It is called Blue Zone, the successor, and said it was still weak, even though they claimed to carry Subaru Narukami's will. While scrolling, he found a news headline with Kazuki's name on it. It turns out that bastard was still alive, promising to win some big tournament. Subaru just muttered to himself that there was no way that would ever happen. Then he saw Kazuki's picture older, wearing an eye patch, looking like a real villain, and realized the traitor survived after all. All of a sudden, his memory threw him way back to a night when he and Kazuki sat on a rooftop together. When they were still friends, his friend said he wanted to quit the Blue Eyes Guild. Our MC was surprised and tried to talk to him, but Kazuki just told him to break the news to everyone else and said Subaru would understand later. He promised to stay as Subaru's shadow, even if he left. Years later, that man started his own guild, using the name they used to joke about, Blue Zone. Back in the present, our boy was still bitter, thinking about how this shadow named his guild Blue Zone and was still stuck on the 9th floor after 20 years. So, basically, he'd done nothing big all this time. While walking through the streets, reading the news, he suddenly saw a picture of a huge building called the Subaru Narukami Memorial Hall. He was totally stunned. It was way fancier than anything he could have imagined. So, in the end, he decided to go there. In the memorial site, he went inside, and right there was this giant portrait of himself in the middle of the hall. Our boy just stood there, feeling bitter and asking himself what the point of remembering him like this was. He stared at all the pictures and statues, trying to figure out what the hell all this meant. Then, a hologram started playing of Kazuki at the hall's grand opening. The guy wore a sharp suit and gave this cheesy speech, pretending to honor Subaru and the Blue Eyes Guild. Kazuki claimed Blue Zone was now the true heir, but our MC couldn't take it. He trembled with anger and just wanted Kazuki to shut up. At that moment, our hero realized how much he hated Kazuki, not just for killing him, but for using his name and his memory. The video kept playing, with Kazuki saying Subaru would never come back, but that he'd never forget him. Subaru walked right up to Kazuki's hologram, eyes burning, and promised himself he'd rewrite that fake story from scratch. No more letting Kazuki control the past. Our MC was back, and he swore he'd use this second chance for real. Subaru was just standing there, minding his own business, when suddenly, bam, a little kid crashed into him from behind and ended up on the ground. The poor guy jumped to help the kid up and asked if he was all right, trying to be the responsible adult. But then the kid looked up, and Subaru's heart nearly stopped, because right there on the kid's face was his own old mask, the legendary mask everyone knew him for. Before our MC could even process that, the kid's parents rushed over, all worried about their son, Minato. Subaru tried to calm them down, telling them it was just a small accident, nothing serious. But then he really looked around, and things got weird. Not just the family, but the whole crowd was wearing that same mask. Some people were holding it like it was some holy thing, while others wore it straight up. Our boy just stood there, totally shocked, wiping his face, and wondering what the hell kind of ritual was going on. All this mask madness made our hero remember what that snake Kazuki once said to him, all sarcastic, how even if Subaru died, he'd still be some kind of immortal hero in history. And now, here it was, right in his face. Subaru finally got it. The whole thing was a giant, fake show. That traitor had twisted the story, turning his own betrayal into some legendary tale, stealing Subaru's glory and using it for himself. Then Subaru's eyes landed on this massive picture of himself with the famous mask, surrounded by candles and flowers, as if it were his own funeral. He realized that all these fancy ceremonies were just Kazuki's way of rewriting history to make himself look like the real hero. While our boy was busy, staring at all the flowers piled up in front of the photo, he noticed something that caught his eye, a little flash of blue energy glowing between the bouquets. He shoved his way through the crowd, ignoring all the angry shouts and complaints around him, not caring what anyone thought. When he finally reached the front, he knelt down and picked up a very special flower-shaped ice that gave off a faint, magical glow. Our boy whispered to himself in shock, because he knew right away that it belonged to Shigure Asagiri, an old friend. Somewhere above, on a rooftop looking over the whole scene, two people were watching everything. One of them, Shigure, said he was relieved that nothing bad happened this year. His companion, who sounded pretty sassy, told him they were way too reckless, and if they'd been late, they would have run into Blue Zone Guild members. She complained about why they had to risk their necks every year just to leave some flowers, but he said it was important, especially if something ever went wrong. He looked down at the crowd, saying all he wanted was for Subaru to notice the ice flower someday. The other person doubted it, asking if he really thought our MC was still alive. The guy said he couldn't believe our boy was dead until he saw a body with his own eyes. But the companion got harsh, saying Kazuki could find their hideout faster than for they to find our MC, and besides, our boy would never have left his friends waiting and hiding for 20 years if he was really alive. Back on the street, Subaru rushed out of the building, holding that ice flower and breathing hard. He was sure now Shigure was alive. Later, in his tiny crappy room, our protagonist flopped onto his bed and started messing with his tablet, disappointed at how poor the original Subaru Hosoi was. He searched for any trace of the Blue Eyes Guild, but nothing came up. Still, because he found an ice-shaped flower, he knew one of his old friends had survived. Our MC figured out right away that the guy must be hiding, forced to stay underground for 2 whole decades. He also guessed it was all Kazuki's fault, since that snake would never let any witnesses to the truth keep breathing. Our MC wondered whether Shigure was the only survivor from that old battle, or whether all 4 of his friends had been saved somehow. But he knew one thing: if the traitor was still in charge, trying to reach out to his old allies right now would just get him killed. He looked out the window, admitting he was weak and powerless for now. There was no point jumping into a fight he couldn't win. All that would bring him was a quick, dumb death. Subaru stared at his hands for a long second, making up his mind that job number 1 was to get his old power back. That was the only way. So, he started making a plan using the memories of Subaru Hosoi. After 2 days of getting ready, the day finally came for the player training test to start. Subaru stood at the entrance, holding a sword and looking super focused, telling himself that all he had to do was survive for now. As long as his friends were out there somewhere, there was a shot they'd meet again. The next scene was in a huge test hall that looked like some Roman Colosseum. The exam proctor here was a scary dude named Hoiger, and he looked totally bored and a little pissed. One of the new trainees was down on the ground, gasping for air after killing a monster. This dude just stared at him and said he barely passed, but that wasn't the end. He asked if the guy wanted to try the next level, while the poor trainee was dying from exhaustion. Then the system popped up, saying that every new round added another goblin, but also better rewards. The trainee freaked out, yelling that there was no way he was going to fight 3 goblins at once. That was just suicide. This old man got annoyed and threatened to fail him, but the guy started begging and promised he was happy with his current score. This old proctor looked at the goblin bodies with disgust, thinking how lame it was that he had to let weaklings like this pass. In his head, he compared this loser to Isaac von Reinhardt, who had made it all the way to round 20. He thought that Isaac was the only one worth anything in this lame generation. While looking at his tablet, he complained to himself that the quality of new recruits was hitting rock bottom. But then, he heard footsteps, and here came our protagonist, walking forward with a cool, steady vibe. This old man sized him up, thinking the weight of that name didn't match the scrawny kid he was looking at. He asked our boy if he really thought he could pass. Subaru just played it chill and said yes. As soon as the system said it was time for 2 goblins, Hoiger didn't even get to finish his sentence before he felt a gust of wind zip past him. He turned, confused, wondering what the hell just flew by. There was our hero, right in the middle of all the blood, smiling and feeling good about himself for spending those 2 days testing what this new body could do. Now, regarding what happened with our boy this time. So, the guy had just found out his new body was way better than he thought. When the system asked if he wanted the next challenge, our MC didn't even hesitate. He told them to hurry up, saying he had no time to waste. Hoiger, the supervisor, stared with his jaw on the floor as he watched goblin heads flying everywhere. The whole arena turned into a mess of monster pieces, and this old man started freaking out, wondering what the hell was happening. He paid close attention and realized Subaru wasn't just swinging that sword around like a fool. He was reading every move, thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead before he even attacked. Hoiger had to admit, this wasn't just good sword fighting anymore. He couldn't believe even he wouldn't be able to pull off moves this sharp. When this old proctor looked at our hero's confident, smug face, he whispered to himself that this was impossible, unless this kid was actually Subaru Narukami himself. Honestly, the guy looked like a legend out there. Bro, that old guy didn't realize this Subaru is the real one. Subaru just kept destroying goblins, not even blinking. He was so fast and cold about it, with blood splashing everywhere, it was almost insane. Suddenly, the system announced that he'd cleared the 49th stage and asked if he wanted to try the final boss. Our boy wiped the sweat from his face, eyes shining, and accepted the challenge like it was nothing. That's when things got wild. The ground split open, and a huge hand came smashing up through the floor, rocks went flying, and suddenly the real boss was in the house. This old man lost his mind, screaming at Subaru to stop, calling him crazy and saying he wasn't the real Narukami. So, he needed to quit if he wanted to stay alive. This dude looked like he was about to have a heart attack, warning over and over that going against the Goblin King was pure madness. The supervisor kept shouting that it didn't matter how good Subaru was, there was just no way anyone could beat that monster with such weak stats. But, our hero knew this already. He figured out he didn't have the power to hurt the Goblin King's tough body at all. Even so, there was no way Subaru was backing down. Suddenly, he let his sword drop to the ground. This old man absolutely lost it, yelling that our protagonist was out of his mind for throwing away his only weapon. Damn, does he want to give up his life? That's when the beast roared and charged in for a massive attack. But Subaru had been watching the arena carefully since the beginning. He noticed something weird and decided to use it. Right when the boss jumped in, he stopped, confused, because a needle had stabbed his leg. Subaru was now kneeling to pick up some needles from the Dead Goblins Club. Then he just showed up some poisoned needles in his hand and gave the monster a cocky smile, asking if he was surprised. Our MC even joked about making a bet on who would fall first, telling the monster he was about to turn him into a beehive. With a sharp gaze and full of confidence, our boy got ready. He threw the needles so fast they looked like lightning, and they hit the Goblin King right in the face and eyes. The monster screamed loud enough to shake the place and started swinging his massive axe everywhere, blind and furious. While the boss was going wild, our hero dodged all the attacks, moving around him like a pro. Our boy then landed, watching every move. He remembered some old lessons about how spinning gives you throwing power. Rina, his old friend, yelled at him about when his throws sucked. She'd always say anything could be deadly if you knew how to use it. Subaru did exactly what she taught him, aiming every needle with scary accuracy, hitting all the weak spots just right. The giant started bleeding and stumbling, covered in needles. Subaru stood there, explaining to himself that power came from spinning the weapon, and the more you hesitate, the worse your aim gets. He thanked Rina for those throwing lessons, thinking even he couldn't pull these moves off without her. Meanwhile, Huger just watched, sweating buckets. He realized the dead goblins and leftover needles from the earlier rounds never disappeared because the test wasn't over yet. Our boy had grabbed all those needles and used them like a genius, not just his sword. This old man kept thinking, genius? No, he's more than a genius. Finally, the Goblin King crashed to the ground, making a huge noise. It was over. Subaru walked up and picked his sword back up, cool as ice. He looked at the dead boss and told him there were no hard feelings, then finished the job. System messages popped up, saying the boss had been defeated, and finally, he completed stage 50 of the tutorial for the first time. Our boy wiped the sweat off his forehead and complained that putting a monster like this in a training stage was just cruel, even if it was only a tutorial. Next, more system messages rolled in, saying he leveled up, got credits, and a bunch of achievement points. The best part, the tutorial shop opened up, and this place could only be used right now. Subaru almost fell over when he saw he had 2,425 achievement points. That was insane, even for his old life. He started looking through the shop. Most of the normal stuff was cheap, only 50 to 100 points, so he had more than enough. Then, one sword caught his eye, the Unknown Demon Sword, a rare weapon for 1,000 points. This sword boosted your power but sucked away your health and soul, made by some failed blacksmith with magic. Subaru thought it sounded cool, but then remembered his lightning skill already used up health, so using both might just kill him. Then he saw the Holy Sword Miranda for 1,400 points. This one made you less tired and helped you fight longer. He figured safety sounded pretty good, but still, he didn't really like either choice. So now our hero was just standing there, totally stuck, trying to decide between going all out with a crazy dangerous sword or picking the safe, boring option. Man, talk about a tough choice. The poor guy was stuck just staring at that shop screen, trying to make the biggest decision of his new life. What the hell should he spend his first points on? He kept scrolling, and dude, he nearly lost it when he spotted a skill called Stake of Avarice, hiding way down in the F rank section for 1,400 points. Its main trick? It could stop the bad side effects from using busted skills or weapons. Subaru just started sweating buckets. He had never seen anything like this before, not in all his years grinding through the game. Right away, he figured out that if he had this, maybe he could ignore the crazy side effects from that demon sword he was eyeing, and maybe even stop his own lightning powers from burning him out. So, being the absolute madman he was, our MC just went for it. He bought both the Stake of Avarice skill and the Unknown Demon Sword, blowing most of his points in one go. When he summoned the Demon Sword, it looked as awesome as he hoped. He swung it around to check, and sure enough, the new skill and the sword worked together perfectly, just like he thought. Honestly, he liked having both options way more than just relying on his old skills. Suddenly, Huiger, the supervisor, popped in to give his opinion. The old man started out giving Subaru some props, saying his choices worked well together, but then he admitted he didn't really get why anyone would pick that particular skill. He said that, as a supervisor, he thought it was useless and didn't see the point at all, so he wanted to know what Subaru was even thinking. Subaru let out a tired sigh, acting like he couldn't believe he had to explain himself. He asked Huiger if the guy seriously needed him to break down every tiny detail. Well, that attitude didn't go over super well. This old man's face got red, and you could tell he was ready to explode. Our protagonist saw this and, being a bit of a troll, pretended to shake in fear and apologize for speaking so informally. That calmed this dude down a little. The old man just blamed Subaru's attitude on exam stress, and said he'd let it slide this one time. Our MC looked at him and suddenly remembered that years ago, back when the badass old guy was just a snot-nosed kid, he'd come up asking for our boy's autograph. Our protagonist had told him he didn't have a cool signature, but signed his name anyway. Now that the brat had grown up and become the boss, wild how things change. This old proctor, trying to sound wise, jumped into a big speech about how the new generation was nothing but rude show-offs, saying they had no respect. Our boy honestly tuned most of it out. He was standing there thinking about how times change, just like the amount of hair left on this old man's head. Bro, if this dude had heard that, he would have lost his mind. Huiger started ranting and tried to corner Subaru with more questions. Our MC just walked away, using the old excuse of exam secrets to dodge answering. This old man, flustered, shouted that our boy was probably just parroting stuff from the internet. He even threatened to teach Subaru some manners himself. Trying to act smooth, the old man suddenly switched gears and offered him a spot in the Chivalry Guild. But our protagonist just laughed it off, waved his hand and shut that idea down immediately. This dude couldn't believe he got rejected on the spot. Before he could say anything else, a system window popped up, asking our MC if he wanted to move on to the second floor. This badass old guy scrambled after him, yelling for him to wait, but our boy just ignored the guy and dipped out, leaving this dude alone, and seriously disappointed with what the world was coming to. Meanwhile, our MC made it to the second floor, stepping out onto the busy streets of the City of Beginnings. It was packed with people and merchants yelling about all sorts of weird stuff: deep-sea rags from Runeterra, special dried meats, Murum silk, earth leather jackets. Our boy wandered through the crowds, soaking it all in. Honestly, it felt wild to be back here. He knew deep inside that he got something super rare, a real second chance at life. He remembered his old friends sitting around a fire and swore to himself he was going to make things right this time, especially after what happened to them before. Then, our boy made his way over to the training building and asked for a private room to try out his new gear and powers. The old worker at the desk barely looked up, sounding totally bored, and asked what floor Subaru came from. Our protagonist just told him he climbed up. The guy pointed down the hall and said, "Room 1 should be good enough, since it was just a basic spot with a straw dummy." But our MC surprised him by asking for room 5 instead. The employee looked at him like he'd just grown another head. He tried to warn our boy that it was a waste of money, and that he should stick to room 1, but our MC thanked him, and insisted on booking the hardest room for half an hour. He paid the 50 credits and took off down the hallway, while the employee shouted after him that there'd be no refunds if he quit early, calling Subaru just another wannabe hero. The higher the room number, the higher the difficulty. From training dummies, a spear trap, or even giant boulders. Sounds crazy, right? But Subaru didn't care. He shut the iron door behind him and got ready in the darkness. He drew the unknown demon sword, and right away, the thing glowed with this evil red light as the system figured out who was using it. Suddenly, a wave of red energy exploded out, and our hero felt his health and magic start draining like crazy, but his strength was going up fast. The stake of avarice skill kicked in, trying to help and giving him a tiny bit of health back, but honestly, it wasn't enough. The sword was still eating away at his life, and the pain kept getting worse, but his power kept doubling the more health he lost. Our boy gritted his teeth and realized he'd found his current limit. It sucked, but it was what he expected. So, like a maniac, he dropped 10,000 credits on the spot to level up the stake of avarice to level 2. The system told him that the next upgrade would cost 20,000 credits, which was pretty wild. But now the skill was actually doing some work, still not perfect, but way better than before. The sword kept eating his health, but the power boost was nuts. Feeling pumped, Subaru jumped high with his glowing red sword, yelling that it was finally time to see just how much destruction he could dish out. Our boy was absolutely ready to go wild. So, outside the training rooms, the old employee was fighting to stay awake at his boring desk job. Suddenly, the door to room 5 flew open, and our boy walked out as if nothing had happened. The poor employee just started shaking right there, trying to figure out if he was still dreaming, because there was no way a newbie should walk out of that room looking so chill. He stared at the door, totally confused, since Subaru had only been inside for about 10 minutes. He called out, calling our hero Dream Boy to check if his eyes were playing tricks on him. The guy slowly pushed the door open, and bro, he nearly fainted at what he saw. The whole room was wrecked. The walls looked like they'd been through an earthquake, and even all the traps and training equipment were destroyed like a piece of cake. The employee just stood there with his mouth wide open, wondering what kind of monster had just been in there. Meanwhile, our hero woke up in his hotel room, stretching as he'd just run a marathon. He wondered how long he'd slept, since his body still felt stiff all over. Thinking about his wild experiment with that demon sword, he realized that if it had been a normal sword, he'd probably be a dead man. Luckily, the pain had dropped a lot, and he managed to actually use the sword's power without dying. He checked his stats window, saw he'd reached level 10, and noticed his numbers were still pretty weak. Normally, a guy with his stats wouldn't even be able to lift that sword, let alone use it in battle. Subaru thought back to his training session, and how well his new Wedge of Greed skill worked with the sword. He felt pretty smart, honestly. He grinned and figured that if he added his old lightning powers to this mix, he could make something really sick. But then reality smacked him in the face. He looked at his balance and saw he had, like, 50 credits left. Upgrading his skill again was going to cost 20,000. Our poor guy just slumped in his chair, wondering if this Subaru had always been broke. He sighed and figured that, hey, dying and coming back probably explained being broke, but it still sucked. Suddenly, a loud voice cut through the lobby, snapping our MC out of his misery. A girly guy wearing cat ears was filming himself, doing a live stream for all to see. The guy was super hyped about his adventure on the second floor, and kept talking about his newbie memories. Our boy watched as someone donated 1,000 credits to the streamer, right on camera. The streamer freaked out, accidentally spilled coffee all over himself, but then acted crazy nice for the camera and made sure to thank the guy who sent him money. Subaru just stared, thinking this dude must be nuts. He grabbed his tablet and started reading up on this whole live streaming thing, finding out that tons of players were doing it to make quick money. Apparently, 1 out of every 3 players was trying to earn points by streaming themselves playing or just hanging out. While he was lost in thought, our protagonist suddenly heard someone calling his name. He looked up and saw this seriously fancy guy in expensive clothes walking over, acting all friendly. The guy, Isaac, asked if our MC had climbed up to the second floor as well, and said it was a weird coincidence meeting here. This rascal wanted to know where our boy was living now. Right away, our boy felt something weird in his body. Not anger, not annoyance, just this intense, electric feeling. It hit him that the old Subaru Hosoi and Isaac did not get along at all. This brat started talking down to him, telling him not to ignore people when they spoke, and acting like our hero was just invisible. Subaru stared back and realized the feeling wasn't just awkwardness, it was way deeper than that. All these old memories started coming to him. Suddenly he remembered everything. The old Subaru had stood there, shaking in front of this bastard, while this guy scolded him hard. This brat was telling him not to give him that blank face and stop acting so calm. The flashback kept going. Isaac called Subaru's name annoying, said he was too dumb for basic instructions, and accused him of pretending to be a cool orphan when he was just useless. Our MC remembered the old him, crying and trying to explain that the credit he gave this rascal wasn't enough. But Isaac didn't care. He just hit him so hard he fell to the ground, then told old Subaru not to answer back and called him trash. This bastard even told him he would live in a dump from now on, and if he ever left it, things would get ugly. Thinking about it now, Subaru wondered what kind of idiot just takes that kind of treatment and stays silent. Now he understood why the old body owner hid in a trash bin. Honestly, brutal. Back to the present, this rascal was still running his mouth, bragging that he'd cleared 20 stages and beat his own dad's record. Then this brat just demanded a drink, acting like our boy was his personal servant. Our MC just kept it cool, told this stupid guy he was leaving, and ignored all the bragging. That clearly ticked Isaac off. He barked at our hero, ordering him to get some cheap coffee on his way back. Our boy just sighed, looking so bored that this moron started getting angry. Dude could tell something was different, and he didn't like it. Isaac glared at him and asked what the hell was wrong, demanding to know why our protagonist was always staring at him and making some dumb joke about whether his soul got swapped out or something. Yeah, this idiot was definitely picking up on the fact that our boy was not the same pushover he used to be. This was about to get interesting. Our boy wasted no time. He told Isaac straight up that he had 0 credit, so if this idiot wanted coffee, he should go buy his own. He wasn't having any of this servant stuff, and moved to leave. But this stupid guy tried to pull the boss card, telling our boy to sit down in this low, threatening voice. Our MC just ignored him. Inside, he apologized to the old owner of his body, saying he didn't have time to get revenge right now. But he did warn this moron seriously not to get in his way. This stupid guy didn't like that one bit. He grabbed Subaru's arm, squeezing it hard, and started running his mouth about what happens to runaway trash. Our MC just looked him in the eye and told Isaac he should let go if he didn't want trouble. But this bastard squeezed even harder, warning our protagonist not to get cocky, and even called him Subaru in a way that made it sound like an insult. Subaru thought for a second, if he caused a scene here, with all these people watching, it would just backfire on him. Suddenly, this rascal laughed loudly and fakedly, saying he was only joking and he just wanted to scare our MC like the old days. He let go of our boy's arm and called him a coward and a nobody, then started guessing that our protagonist barely passed the tutorial. Our hero just stared back, feeling his body get tense with old fear. This idiot got up close and sneered, asking if our boy was really going to fight him, bragging about his powerful dad, and saying he could make our MC disappear with no problem. This stupid guy walked away, still laughing, and told our hero to be careful, calling him friend like it was some kind of joke. Our hero just stood there, boiling with anger, repeating that friend line to himself with pure sarcasm. Bro, that was cold. Well, let me explain how things worked in this tower world. There were 2 main ways to get stronger here. The first way was to train in the tower's virtual trials. This was the safe route. If you messed up, you only lost a bit of progress and some credit, but you never actually died. The other way was full-on monster hunting out in the real world, where things got very real, very fast. You could level up way quicker, but if you died, that was it. Game over. The monsters outside the safe zones made sure nobody got a second chance. Most people stuck to the safe trials, cause risking your neck for fast growth was just too scary. Cut to our MC, sitting all tired in front of this massive, ugly orc's corpse near the entrance of the orc's nest. He figured out the truth. Playing it safe was slow, but taking risks was the only way to get strong fast. Subaru looked at the dead orc, thinking how rough it all was. He pulled out his tablet to check for any good news, and saw something that made his blood pressure spike. There was this live stream going wild, and, bro, someone was out there pretending to be Subaru, mask and all. The fake Subaru had over 80,000 followers and was yelling at the screen, saying he was about to take on the 3rd floor for the fans. Our MC felt sick watching all these fakes, making a ton of money off his name and his mask. Suddenly, an anonymous named Narukami Subaru is an idiot, gave this trash streamer a mission with a crazy reward of 20,000 credits. The copycat jumped on it, thanking everybody, as if he'd just won the lottery. Then came more stupid missions, given by another anonymous users such as Badly Enthusiast and Empty Wallet. All of them paid huge, and the fake Subaru just kept raking in the cash while acting like a clown. Our poor guy looked at his own balance, still stuck at 50 lousy credits, while that faker was making a fortune goofing around. Our protagonist shook his head, totally bitter, but he knew he didn't have a choice. If he wanted to get stronger, he had to keep fighting. He grabbed his bloody sword and got ready for round 2. A bunch of angry orcs showed up, and right behind them was the boss, the orc general, with a crazy, scary aura. Our boy stood his ground, making fun of the orcs for thinking he was out of poison tricks this time. He told them he had something even better now. He fired up his stake of avarice skill, letting it suck up his health so he could hit even harder, and he started smiling like a total maniac, saying he was way too busy for this. He jumped up, stomped an orc's head flat, and felt his health and energy come back a bit. Then he went full beast mode, cutting down the orcs with superhuman speed. He even jumped right over the orc general's head, and, with one big swing, wiped out the boss in one shot. A notification popped up saying he'd cleared the dungeon, and our MC just stood there like a legend, surrounded by monster parts. After the fight, Subaru took out his old mask and stared at it for a long time. He realized he had no choice now. He had to put it back on. He put the mask on in front of the mirror and decided if he was going to do this streaming thing, he would do it his own way. No faking. He said to himself that he was the real deal, the original. So, our hero started his own live stream with the title Narukami Subaru. The second he went live, everything at Suiton Entertainment Company went nuts. One woman was watching and got so mad she started cursing at her screen, but then she screamed in total shock. Her coworker ran over, asking what was up, while she pointed at the screen, still freaking out. She couldn't believe someone had actually finished a mission that almost nobody could beat. Only 5 people in the whole world had done it before. Her coworker tried to calm her down, reminding her to watch the bad language or she'd get hit with a fine, and wanted to know who this player was. She said the name was Subekichi, which just confused her coworker even more. Meanwhile, in the media company's office, an employee called Hatsuka was grumbling about all the copycats trying to steal Subaru Narukami's style. Her coworker wondered if the streaming business was already dead, The lady told him that this business was still their bread and butter, but even players risking their lives in the tower had gotten boring to watch. The guy asked her why she quit climbing the tower to work here. She just shrugged and said she got bored. She got a bit worked up and yelled back that he quit too, and that if she had more free time, she'd be out there finding real talent instead of dealing with all these fakes. The coworker admitted that he stopped because he just wasn't good enough. But her coworker knew something. The only reason he even tried tower climbing was to meet Subaru Narukami, so of course, she lost interest after her idol disappeared. Back at the office, there was a lot of yelling. This woman suddenly screamed and pointed at her screen as she'd just seen a ghost. Her coworker came running, asking if she'd found another weird streamer. She showed him a live stream of someone wearing Subaru's outfit, and the dude just called it terrible. He started shouting, saying it was insulting to watch some zero-view stream from the boring second floor, and if she was a real talent scout, she'd never bother with this garbage. But the workwoman just stared at the screen, saying that anytime she saw someone with that old mask, she couldn't help but feel a little hope. Then, out of nowhere, she pointed out to his coworker and said he owes 1,000 credits to her. Her coworker pretty much lost it, dropping to his knees and begging her to forgive him, for what nobody knew, but it was dramatic. Meanwhile, our hero was exploring the starter dungeon on the second floor. He said it wasn't that tough, but it was definitely tense, like something was watching him even though the place looked empty. He saw a few comments pop up from viewers. Someone wanted to know about the floor, so our MC replied that it was his first challenge here. Then, this viewer called Love Money popped in to warn him that streaming here was risky for beginners, since newbies usually didn't know the right paths. Our boy kept walking carefully, reading the advice, when suddenly, a one-eyed bat came out of nowhere and tried to jump at him, but our boy didn't even flinch. He smacked the thing down with one hit, got a notification for beating the monster, and then turned back to his chat, telling everyone that he doesn't care about what they said. Cold as ice, bro. He kept moving through the dark dungeon, while more comments started flying in. One viewer called White said our boy's reaction time was awesome, but Love Money still told him not to get greedy and to find a team. Our hero thanked them for the tip, but politely turned it down, saying that teaming up just wasn't an option for him. He actually told everyone he preferred to challenge stuff alone, which set off a bunch of sarcastic comments. The viewers started mocking him, thinking there was no way he'd make it on his own and calling him a wannabe, just trying to use the Narukami Subaru name. But our MC ignored their trash talk and focused on the next monster, which popped out fast. A mud merman lunged at him from under the ground. Our protagonist dodged easily and wrecked it with his demon sword, saying he wanted to see how far he could push himself. Another notification popped up, 2 more achievement points, and the chat totally freaked out, not understanding what they'd just seen. But then things got wild. Monster screams echoed everywhere as a whole crew of bats and mud merman showed up. Our boy just went full beast mode, tearing through monsters left and right with his glowing red sword. The viewers couldn't believe what they were seeing. This guy was supposed to be a rookie, but he was mowing monsters down like a pro. Notifications kept popping up about his kills and points, while our hero stood there in the dark, proving he wasn't just some fake, but a real force to watch out for. With the cave pitch black, our hero actually started teaching the viewers how to find enemies just by listening to sounds and noticing how many there were. Chat didn't buy it at all and kept making fun of him, saying he was lying and pretending to know stuff. Some called him a clown for wearing the Narukami Subaru mask, but our MC just touched the mask for a second, thinking that if these people knew what he really was, they'd get what was happening in his head. He kept walking, determined, telling himself he still didn't have enough points and he needed to collect as many as possible before leaving. The viewers stayed salty, dropping comments like a real man, rushes forward in silence, or asking if he'd even researched the place before coming in. But then, our MC stopped and looked up, and honestly even I got chills. The ceiling of the cave was covered, like totally covered, with huge crowds of one-eyed bats, all opening their red eyes at the same time. The chat started losing it, laughing and waiting for our boy to get wrecked, thinking he was about to die and have to start over. Right then, a new notification came in from a viewer called My Only Stream. They offered Subaru just 100 credits if he could take out all those bats. The rest of the chat called it a mean joke or a straight-up trap, but our protagonist totally shocked everyone. He just accepted the challenge, calm as ever, and thanked the viewer for the 100 credits like it was no big deal. Bro, this dude has nerves of steel. Meanwhile, back at the broadcasting company, Hatsuka's coworker was losing his mind, smashing the table because he couldn't get past the 6th floor. He apologized for making noise, but she was way too focused, glued to her screen. Her coworker asked what was up and why she suddenly got quiet. The workwoman said something was off. The guy panicked, thinking she had caught him gambling again, and started making promises that he'd stop and could pay everything back. But her eyes just got huge. She wasn't talking about gambling at all. She just pointed at her screen, whispering, Narukami Subaru. Her coworker freaked out, asking if she was seriously still watching that stream. When he saw what was on her screen, his face went white with fear. Because, on the stream, our MC was going absolutely crazy, spinning through the bats and slashing everything with red arcs from his glowing sword. The chat was full of people screaming, saying there was no way this was a beginner level on the 2nd floor, and some even started to feel sorry for the bats getting destroyed like that. Everyone in the chat was stunned by how many monsters our hero was dropping every second. While fighting, Subaru's mind drifted back to something Shigure had told him long ago. Ashen Hair once said, our hero was amazing because he never lost his focus, not even his breathing or his gaze, when he changed his sword's direction mid-strike. He explained it always looked like our boy finished the fight in one blow, but what he actually did was read the enemy's movements and plan ahead. Our MC remembered telling his friend he didn't think what he did was special, which just confused the guy even more. Ashen Hair had grumbled that maybe it would be better if our boy didn't do that stuff by instinct, since it made him annoying. But coming back to the present, our MC was still tearing the bats apart, using everything he'd learned, reading his enemies, keeping eye contact, sending his intent straight out, and not wasting time on every monster when fighting a whole group. Bro, he was a machine. So, yeah, our hero was out there in the dark, mask on, sword blazing, showing everyone exactly why you shouldn't call him a copycat. In the midst of chaos, Subaru cleaned off his bloody sword and told the viewers that these one-eyed bats always attack the same way, by shoving their heads forward. He explained that when a whole group did this, they left a big gap, so he just jumped in and took advantage. But the chat was having none of it. People complained his explanation made zero sense, and the other just freaked out after they saw his actions in life. Another viewer joked that Subaru's advice was about as useful as saying, if you put your foot forward, you can walk. The poor guy thought to himself that talking with people online was almost harder than fighting monsters. Then, Love Money, the dude who started the last challenge, reminded our hero not to forget about the 100 credits. Our MC totally froze. He finally remembered the reward and started poking at his tablet, but it was obvious the guy had no idea how to accept it. The viewers started freaking out, wondering why our boy had suddenly gone silent and speechless. Is his head going away from keyboard? Nope. He just stared at the screen, looking clueless, and the chat went nuts, roasting him for being a total boomer with technology. Finally, Love Money told him which button to tap, and our MC was so relieved when he finally got the credits that he actually thanked the guy for walking him through it. With his balance up to 150 and 118 achievement points, our boy told his followers that the next challenge would be his last for the day. He marched toward the dungeon's end, feeling pretty good about himself. Meanwhile, things were getting wild back in the office. Hatsuka let out a scream so loud her coworker nearly jumped out of his skin. He wanted to know what the hell happened, but she just pointed at the screen, asking if he'd ever seen anything like this before. The guy tried to keep it cool, saying it was just a second-floor stream, but the workwoman was so hyped, she looked like she might cry. She said she knew she was freaking out, but she had a good reason, and her coworker apologized, getting nervous. The workwoman started going nuts, talking about how maybe, just maybe, this was the real Subaru Narukami, like reincarnated or something. The poor office guy just stared, thinking she always lost her mind whenever our boy was involved. She actually asked him to pinch her, just to make sure she wasn't dreaming. The dude refused, asking if she really wanted to recruit this streamer. Hatsuka didn't even hesitate. She screamed that she would, because even if he wasn't actually Subaru, this guy had some real solo talent. The coworker tried to warn her about the boss getting mad, but she reminded him that he'd been betting just a minute ago, so he wasn't exactly in a position to talk. Then she whipped out her phone, glued her eyes to Subaru's stream, and told her coworker to just wait and see. She was sure she'd be right. Back in the dungeon, our MC reached a huge gate. When he walked through, a massive wolf-like beast sat there waiting for him. This was Greg the Wolf Warrior, and bro, he looked insane, like the final boss's older cousin. The viewers all started freaking out, saying, just looking at the guy's aura felt heavy, and one viewer even admitted he'd failed 8 times trying to beat Greg. A new challenge popped up, saying our hero had to earn the Wolf Warrior's approval to pass. Our MC explained to everyone that Greg wasn't some normal monster. He was a gatekeeper who decided if you were strong enough to move on. Suddenly, a mission from Safe Origin showed up, offering 3,000 credits if Subaru could actually defeat Greg. Subaru's jaw dropped. The chat went wild, calling the person offering that cash straight up evil and saying no way our protagonist was crazy enough to try fighting him. Greg, the big wolf himself, stared sharp as a blade. A system message said Subaru had to win the wolf's approval. That wolf asked our MC if he was alone. Our hero said it should be obvious from looking. The boss sniffed at our boy, saying he had the scent of a real warrior. The viewers in chat started making fun of how weird this all sounded compared to what they'd been told before. Subaru explained in his head that wolf tribe warriors could literally smell your spirit, not just your sweat and old t-shirt. The beast then announced that our protagonist had what it took to pass and told him the test was over. He could go on. The viewers went wild, saying they didn't expect it to be that easy. But our hero didn't budge. He muttered that none of this had happened in his past life, and honestly, he sounded a little disappointed. He quietly explained his real target was the wolf himself, not just the gate. The gatekeeper looked surprised, asking if he meant to fight him, not just move forward. Our MC stared him down, eyes glowing under his mask, and confirmed it. Someone wanted him to take that wolf out. The wolf bared his teeth in a savage grin, saying this was what he expected from a true warrior. Back at Suiton Entertainment headquarters, things were getting tense. The department manager, John Tail, was typing like a maniac, keeping an eye on all the reports. He snapped, asking for the viewer count on our boy's stream. Seong-hyun, the poor, nervous employee, said there were maybe 20 people watching, but Hatsuka shut that down fast, saying they already passed 30 viewers, but her coworker thinks that difference isn't a big deal. The manager glared at them, sure they were slacking off on the job and gambling, and reminded them that their real job was to search for new talent. The workwoman just ignored his rant, eyes locked on the monitor, mumbling about the viewer count going up. The boss got even madder, screaming that this wasn't the point and that maybe the workwoman should start streaming herself if she liked it so much. Things were getting wild, both in the dungeon and over at the Suiton office. The workwoman suddenly screamed with excitement, cutting off her manager to announce that the viewer count just shot past 40. The boss, who was already losing it, yelled at her to pay attention, but honestly, there was no chance anyone could get her eyes off that screen now. Back in the dungeon, our boy was standing face to face with Greg, the wolf warrior. The beast was ready to tear him apart, growling like he hadn't eaten in days. Our hero grabbed his demon sword, and you could tell he was pumping himself up, telling himself to focus only on the fight and ignore everything else. That demon sword of his started sucking up his energy right away, but the wild thing, the more it took, the stronger and faster our MC got. Subaru kept his cool, tried to slow his breathing, and trusted his level 2 Stake of Avarice skill to fight off the sword's nasty side effects. He told himself to fight like he always did, even if this new body felt a bit weird. The wolf didn't wait. He launched himself at Subaru, claws swinging so hard they tore the ground up. Weapons clashed, sparks shot everywhere, and bro, it sounded brutal. The monster didn't hold back for a second. He came at our MC from every direction, claws flying, and our hero had no choice but to dodge and block over and over. That wolf was just too fast and strong. Our boy could only just keep up. He knew right then that matching this beast in raw strength was a total joke. No way could he win that way. So, our MC started thinking up another plan. The wolf, of course, was full of himself. While he attacked, he shouted that our protagonist had guts, but there was no way he could win. The chat blew up with people saying our hero was doomed. They called his moves too defensive and said the wolf was way too much for him. Some viewers even told him to quit and try again later. And one dude blamed whoever gave out this crazy mission in the first place. Our boy kept retreating, catching his breath, and thinking hard. He knew there were smarter ways to win than just trying to hit harder. Now, the wolf was ready to finish things. He slammed the ground so hard that it exploded in rocks and dust, and said that he would end it. But guess what? Our MC dashed out of the dust like a maniac and told the wolf that, actually, that was his line, not the wolf's. He went on to say the wolf's attacks were so one-sided and predictable that the beast's hand stuck on the cave wall, which left the beast totally stunned. Dodging the wolf's bite and claws like it was nothing, our hero said that avoiding those attacks was pretty easy. He took advantage of the opening and landed a brutal cut right into the wolf's side. The beast howled in pain, and Subaru didn't stop. He followed up with a massive sword strike, splitting the wolf's chest wide open. Blood went everywhere. Whew, that sounded painful, bro. Subaru stood there, sword dripping, all icy and cool. The wolf warrior, with his last breath, admitted our boy was stronger and called him a true warrior. And then he died, just like that. Standing in the middle of that bloody mess, our MC got bombarded with system messages. He cleared the wolf warrior and leveled up twice. His strength and agility both jumped. His focus and magic power rose too. And he bagged 500 achievement points in one shot. The stream chat? People were losing their minds, calling it insane because nobody thought one guy could beat that monster. While our protagonist tried to catch his breath, the viewer count shot up to 56. People started talking about how bold the sender of the impossible mission was. And then he got a notice. 3,000 credits had dropped into his account. The poor guy looked at his phone and said he was definitely going to use that cash well. Now his balance was over 3,000, with 600 achievement points stacked up. The giant gate at the end began to open, creaking like something out of a horror movie. But right then, a weird vibration hit the place. Our boy felt it, and the chat saw it too. Suddenly, a huge system screen popped up, showing a ton of test paths. Ice, fire, earth, illusion, poison, metal, soul, water. The list went on. Viewers freaked out because someone in the chat said the record was only 16 options before, and that the number you got depended on your talent. Subaru had 13. That's not bad, bro. Our MC didn't even look at the other options. He locked onto the lightning test, and the system asked if he was sure. The chat went wild, cheering him on, saying lightning was obviously the best choice for him. Our hero didn't hesitate. He answered confidently that, of course, he wanted it. The system confirmed his choice, and, just like that, Subaru stepped into the blinding light. Meanwhile, back in the office, both the employees and the boss are yelling about Subaru's win. She shoved her phone in her co-workers' faces, showing the stream had hit 60 viewers already, and was raving about the 13 test paths that popped up. The department manager, on the other hand, was sweating bullets, admitting it was crazy that our hero beat the wolf warrior, a monster nobody else had ever beaten. But he tried to play it safe and said that Subaru was still just some beginner on the second floor, and risking money on him now was way too dangerous. Hatsuka, though, she wasn't scared at all. She made a wild bet. If our MC failed to get the lightning element, she and her buddy Song Hyun would work for a fixed salary for 5 years. But if our boy won, the boss had to offer him a contract, no takebacks. Seong Hyun totally panicked, saying he didn't even know our protagonist, and trying to wriggle out of it, but she just covered his mouth so he couldn't ruin things. The boss laughed, not buying that our hero could win. He pointed out that the only person to ever get lightning before was Subaru Narukami himself. The workwoman just grinned, saying nobody would know the outcome until they tried. The manager took the bet, and Hatsuka kept her hand on Song Hyun's mouth, making sure he didn't blow her shot. So, back at the test arena, the system voice boomed out that the lightning test was starting. Our boy suddenly felt some bad vibes, like something dangerous was coming. Before he could even react, someone sprinted in, yelling at him and shoving him out of the way just in time too. A massive explosion rocked the place, with rocks and dirt flying everywhere. When the dust settled, bro, there was a giant white monster just standing there, flexing like he owned the place. The stranger who saved our MC started scolding him, saying he must want to die if he was just going to stand there looking lost. Meanwhile, a system message flashed up, telling everyone to defeat the fragment of the giant. The poor guy was still on his knees, totally stunned, wondering what the hell this monster was doing here. Turns out the viewers were just as confused. This giant was supposed to be from the Circle of Giants, not part of the lightning test. Our MC stared at the thing, heart pounding, and realized, oh crap, this was a boss-class monster. It wasn't even supposed to show up until later. As the giant started gearing up for a fight, our boy wondered if maybe, because he destroyed the wolf warrior Greg so fast, the system decided to crank up the difficulty for him. That's what you get for showing off, huh? The giant wasn't going to wait around though. He swung his huge club and smashed the ground, sending rocks flying everywhere and making the whole place shake. Our protagonist dodged with some slick moves, and while he was doing it, he reminded himself that this thing, for all its size, was actually weaker than Greg the wolf in pure muscle. The only reason he knew that? Experience, bro. Sometimes it pays to have done your homework. But the stranger wasn't done yelling, telling Subaru not to waste the rescue and to get lost before he got himself wrecked. Our boy just ignored that and decided he needed to wrap this up quickly before anyone else tried to help. He pulled out his demon sword and activated its power. Yeah, the one that eats away at his health in exchange for more strength. To keep from totally wrecking himself, our MC also turned on that level 2 Stake of Avarice skill, which helped fight off the worst effects. The giant tried to stomp him flat, but our hero dodged again and then did something wild. Instead of running away, he sprinted right up the giant's arm, lightning fast. The monster looked totally lost, like he had no idea what had just happened. Suddenly, our protagonist was up in the air, right behind the giant's head. He landed on the big guy's shoulder and just drove his sword in hard, blood spraying everywhere. The beast howled in pain, but all our hero did was glare at him and complain about the noise, like, could this monster not yell so loud? Then, boom, one last move. Our MC finished the giant, telling him to shut up for good. Bloodshot oozed from the giant's neck, and the huge body crashed to the ground. The system popped up a message, defeated fragment of the giant, 4th stage cleared. The stream totally lost it. Nobody could believe he skipped from the 1st to the 4th stage that fast. And the rewards? Bro, insane. Subaru leveled up again, his strength, agility, health, and magic points all ticked higher. The system dropped 4,000 achievement points on him. Plus, he scored 2 rare items, the Heart of the Giant and Thunderclap armor. The comments section exploded. People kept saying it was nuts to get such rewards and clear 4 stages in one shot, just for killing the wolf earlier. Right then, the guy who had been saved by our hero, everyone on stream called them Falcon, came running back, totally out of breath and wide-eyed. He asked what the hell our boy even was. Still in shock, our MC just sheathed his sword, all cool, and told this poor guy they could figure it out just by looking. Our hero hit a pose and said he was the guy who came to beat the giant. The stream, of course, clowned on him for being so mysterious. But things didn't slow down. The scene shifted to a chill village, where our hero took a break at an inn, flopping onto the bed. The chat immediately started demanding he show off the loot he got. Our MC flashed a grin and said he was just as curious, so he opened up his bag. First up was the Heart of the Giant, a rare ring that boosted his health by 2 points and helped with recovery. Our protagonist said he liked the sound of that. Next was the Thunderclap armor. This thing gave him 5 extra defense, was full of lightning power, and had an active skill that could block bad effects once a day. Subaru put it on, and bro, he looked seriously epic. Suddenly, new missions started flooding in. Someone named Love Narukami Subaru offered 5,000 credits if our hero could show off the lightning skill. And then more, I Am Bald, Mission Villain, Safe Origin, all dropped crazy offers, promising thousands just to see him use lightning. Our MC thanked everyone, saying he'd definitely show them what real lightning looked like. But deep down, our boy was wondering why everyone was so hyped about this lightning move. He started to get a weird feeling that the original Subaru Narukami must have been even more legendary than he thought. Then there was a knock at the door. Our boy told them to come in, while the chat pointed out that someone was probably eavesdropping. The door opened, and in came Falcon, panting, as usual, along with a knight in shiny armor. This poor guy politely introduced the knight as Lord Pellis, the commander of the village knights, and apologized for the delay. He explained how the giants had been attacking a lot lately, so the knights were on high alert every day and night. While the commander spoke seriously with his assistant about keeping the villagers safe, this poor guy said it was super weird to meet a stranger like our hero in these crazy times. Lord Pellis himself thanked our MC, saying he'd heard about him helping the village out when the commander was away. Our boy finally got his flowers. It's about damn time, honestly. Then our hero told Pellis he had just done what anyone would do, even though, inside, he was looking at the commander with respect. He remembered the captain as the wall that always protected this village. The leader got serious, and let everyone know that his team had finally found the giant leader's hideout. He said they were ready to risk everything to corner this monster. Then, dude, the knight actually bowed down in front of our MC, swallowing all his pride just to beg for help to save the village. Subaru watched in silence while his live stream chat went wild, dropping all kinds of mysterious warnings. Some viewers were calling Pellis by name, others shouting for people to stop spoiling what was about to happen. Our boy remembered the way the story used to go, and it hit him. The commander was supposed to die in the next part. That truth stung a little. But he told the knight to look up, with pity and determination in his eyes, and said he'd work with him. You could see relief and hope wash over the leader's face instantly. The guy was actually smiling now. Suddenly, the system popped up, alerting everyone that the 5th stage had started. It was called Survival. Nice name, but honestly, things were about to get anything but nice. The squad set off towards these rough mountains, and our protagonist was scrolling through his tablet, trying to keep up with the chat. There were way more viewers now, and the comments were blasting by so fast he could barely read them. Bro realized that talking to the chat and fighting for your life at the same time was not easy. Then, Pellis suddenly held up his hand and told everyone to stop. He pointed off in the distance, warning the group in a low voice. The enemy was right there. The giant boss was sleeping, lying on the ground, looking like a monster out of a nightmare, with tattoos everywhere and a beard big enough to hide a small child. After that, the knight came up with a plan. He said he'd draw the boss's attention, and our boy should attack from behind to catch him off guard. But our MC stopped him and asked him to wait, because something felt really off. Our hero's eyes got wide. He realized the giant was not alone. And then, bam, the ground shook. Other giants popped out of nowhere. Total ambush. There was now a whole army of giants with creepy pale faces, grinning like they just won the lottery. They surrounded the knights, tight as a trap. The commander froze in shock, and suddenly, one giant grabbed a knight and crushed the poor guy right in his hand. Screams everywhere, blood flying, and that giant just stood there, loving the chaos. Another giant stared coldly at another knight, smiling widely, giving extreme trauma. That was nightmare fuel, bro. Panic spread like wildfire. One knight tried to order a retreat, but nobody was listening, and the whole group started running in every direction. The giants just went berserk. It was a massacre, and our MC was right in the middle of it. One knight got caught, and his brother started screaming in horror, begging the giant to stop. His friends tried to hold him back, but he ran forward anyway, desperate to save his big bro. It was hopeless. The older brother got crushed, and the battlefield turned into straight-up hell. Through the chaos, Pelu started yelling at the soldiers, ordering them to retreat right now. He told them this was not up for debate, and pushed them to remember their families and the village that needed them. He promised it wasn't the end. They'd regroup and fight again. The soldiers finally listened, and ran for their lives into the forest. The knight shouted at his assistant, Falcon, telling him to lead the survivors and make sure everyone got away safely. Then the commander turned to our hero and told him to run too, begging him to stay alive, so they could rebuild and fight another day. But our boy just drew his sword, which started glowing red, and told the guy that this line was actually his. Our protagonist started walking straight toward the giants, totally calm, going the opposite way of everyone else. The leader just stared, thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? Our boy stopped and told the knight he couldn't fight properly with him around. He gave the commander a choice, leave now or stay and die together. The guy freaked out at first, saying he couldn't just run away and leave some stranger behind, but our protagonist shut him down, telling him not to make him repeat himself. Finally, the leader gave in, voice shaking, promising he'd go gather the rest of the men and begging our hero to hold on until they got back. He shouted that he owed Subaru his life and hoped he'd stay safe. Now, it was just our MC, alone against all the giants. They came at him with their giant creepy faces and massive bodies, but our hero charged right in, sword ready. He told them, in the chillest voice ever, that he was their opponent now. Then he started moving like a bolt of lightning, zooming around their feet and landing perfect hits. Two giants fell fast, and the system let him know right away that he'd scored some big points. But while he was fighting, our protagonist was thinking that even if this was just a test, being the one left behind to sacrifice himself was something he would never get used to. Meanwhile, Pilas stopped running and looked back, sweating and torn up with regret for leaving our hero alone. The sight behind him was straight out of a nightmare, giants everywhere, closing in on our boy, while the chat exploded with people freaking out that this was suicide. Viewers kept saying there were too many giants, and being a hero wasn't going to be enough this time. But our boy was thinking differently. He remembered that the knight was supposed to die here. With his new power, maybe he could save everyone and change that fate. Our MC was about to go all in. Two giants came to our MC at the same time, but the poor guy was ready. With one smooth move, he sliced right through one of them, and the system quickly let him know that he got the points for the kill. He kept fighting, moving like a tornado between the giants, while warning screens popped up telling him that using the cursed demon sword was draining his stamina fast. But hey, at least all his stats were going up like crazy. Not bad, right? Our boy kept cutting down giants all around him, thinking to himself that fighting them one by one wasn't actually that hard. The real problem, though, was how long he could keep using this sword before his body totally gave out. Yeah, that was pretty scary. So, he decided to mix things up. He wanted a better look at the battlefield and needed to find the boss, fast. So our guy started jumping, like really jumping, using the giants as stepping stones to launch himself up. He started slicing the giants from above, moving with insane speed and even smashing one giant's head with a kick. The chat was blowing up, freaking out about his crazy aerial fighting style, and people were saying this was classic Narukami Subaru stuff. While he was in the middle of this madness, the Wedge of Greed skill was working hard, fighting off the cursed sword's side effects. Our hero could actually feel his health and mental energy coming back. He had to admit, having good gear made a real difference in a fight like this. But there were way too many giants, and there was no end in sight. Our hero knew what he had to do now. He needed to take down the big boss before his body hit its limit. That's when the giant boss finally showed up, looking like the final boss from a horror movie, grinning like he wanted to eat someone. The monster raised his giant club, ready to smash everything, and honestly, our boy looked tiny in front of him. But our MC just ran at him, full of confidence. He knew this was it. If he didn't finish the fight in one big blow, he was toast. So, he gathered every bit of strength he had and charged, activating his shield skill, Lightning Bolt, and hoping for the best. Thunder exploded everywhere, and a massive golden lightning bolt hit the ground, lighting up the whole place. The shock stunned all the other giants, giving Subaru a perfect chance. He launched himself from the sky, straight at the boss, who was still reeling after getting zapped. The boss roared in pain and started yelling about humans, but Subaru didn't care. He stabbed his cursed sword right into the boss's head, pushing through, even though he could feel the sword sucking the life out of him. Finally, the big boss crashed to the ground, totally dead. Then the system went wild. It told Subaru he had beaten the giant seed and cleared the 5th stage, called it a fantastic achievement and everything. More messages followed, letting him know he leveled up twice and got a boost in strength, agility, vitality, and magic. The live stream chat was losing its mind, asking if anyone had ever beaten this boss before. Someone answered that no one had ever done it, and the test wasn't even meant to be cleared this way. Basically, our hero just opened a brand new path. But dude, reality was way rougher than he wanted. Subaru looked at his tired body and felt annoyed. He had hoped to end the fight with some super cool, comic book style move, but in real life, you don't always get to look cool. The clouds above started to break up, and the battlefield atmosphere shifted. The other giants seemed totally confused now that their boss was gone. Our protagonist landed, totally out of breath, and realized something brutal. His skill, the Wedge of Greed, couldn't block all the cursed sword's bad effects this time. Even worse, the monsters didn't disappear just because he cleared the stage. The rules said they were supposed to stay until the test's time limit expired. So now he was almost out of power, and the giants were starting to stare at him again, all with creepy smiles. Bro was in deep trouble. He had no energy left, and the giants were closing in. They were ready to tear him apart, and there was nothing he could do. Then, just as one of the giants was about to crush the poor guy, a black and gold lightning bolt shot down from the sky, slamming right into our hero. The place exploded with energy. Meanwhile, in another place far away, there is a quiet wooden cabin he saw jump to somewhere totally different. A quiet wooden cabin in the forest. A woman was sitting outside, chilling in the sunshine. Shigure came out and asked her why she was sitting out there. She said the weather was great, and she just wanted to enjoy the fresh air. She told him that enjoying moments like this was all they could do now. Ashen Hair looked out seriously, agreeing with her, and saying that time was almost up. They only had 1 year left, max. His face turned even more serious as he said it was finally time to wrap everything up. This guy noticed the woman, Rena, was totally distracted by her phone, like she always got when things got tense. He asked what she was looking at. She showed him her screen saying, "Look at this." She was watching a guy in a mask calling himself Narukami Subaru. Shigure's eyes went wide, and he blurted out Subaru's name, but this lady jumped in with a cold voice, saying there was no way that was the Our MC they knew. She explained, while showing the live stream, that it was just some random streamer using the name, taking the second floor test. This man stared at the moves on screen, totally stunned. Rena told him seriously that if our hero had really survived all that, Kazuki would have been long gone from the tower by now. Ashen Hair asked her what she meant. She looked sharp and sad, saying our protagonist was dead and this dude needed to accept it. This man tried to end the talk and leave, tired and upset, but this woman called out, asking how long he was going to keep living in the shadow of that boy. He shot back, asking her why she was watching the stream if she believed Subaru was gone. This lady just said she was bored and needed something to do. Then, suddenly, she froze. Her eyes went wide as she stared at the phone, surprising this guy, who saw her reaction. He looked at the screen, and his jaw dropped. He muttered in shock, not believing what he was seeing. And that's where things got really interesting, bro. Back to our MC, things went absolutely wild on the battlefield. Out of nowhere, a giant explosion of golden lightning ripped through the place, blasting the giants all over the field. When the smoke cleared, there was our hero, standing right in the middle of the chaos. He looked insane, glowing with electricity and red eyes, while a system message popped up. Our boy had just unlocked the legendary Thunder skill. Our hero stood there in shock, thinking to himself that this spot was never supposed to be where you learned that skill. He saw that he got a whopping 2,000 achievement points, and the system was asking if he wanted to keep going with the test or leave. The chat was buzzing, saying beating the giant boss must have been the secret trigger. Our MC checked the Thunder skill info. It was rank A+ and super strong, but it would eat up his health and magic every time he used it. Not exactly a free win, huh? While the giants were getting themselves together for round 2, our MC took a second to thank God for not dying. Messages started rolling in, quests completed, massive donations from fans, thousands of credits pouring into his account. So, our hero thanked everyone, because you gotta show respect when your wallet just blew up. He remembered he owed the fans a good show in return for all that cash, so he got ready to jump back into the fight. That's when the giants started roaring again, charging at him even harder. Subaru decided to give the viewers something crazy. He dropped all 20,000 credits at once to power up his Wedge of Greed skill. The system dinged again, saying Wedge of Greed was now level 3 and could handle the wild backlash from the thunder. Not bad, but our MC wasn't about to go full maniac. He played it smart. He only channeled the lightning through his right hand, keeping things under control for now. Once he was sure he could handle it, he dashed at the giants, sword in hand, moving way too fast for normal eyes. The demon's sword in his grip started crackling with dangerous, destructive energy. He raised his sword high, telling everyone it was finally time to let loose, just like the good old days. Then he slammed the blade down with so much force that a massive red and lightning rift tore right through the enemy group. Giants were torn apart. Our boy was left standing there, breathing hard, sweat pouring down his face. He cursed himself for overdoing it, realizing too late that he had nothing left for the trip back. Bro, classic our hero moment. Awesome, also a little dumb. All around him were giant bodies. He could barely stay upright, only managing to stand by kneeling on his sword. Suddenly, a bunch of armored knights ran up. Commander Pilu saw our hero start to fall, freaked out hard, and screamed for the savior. The poor guy was so out of it he was just gasping for air. Watching the knight run to him with panic in his eyes, our MC muttered to himself that the leader was a real fool for coming all this way just to help him. But as he started to collapse, the commander reached out and caught him just before he hit the ground. Dude, talk about a close call. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Hatsuka was glued to her phone, practically shaking with nerves. Her manager and her coworker, Seong-hyun, stood behind her, both looking totally confused. The employee asked if all this drama was even worth it, but the boss just said not to ask him about women's feelings because he honestly had no clue. This lady looked like she was about to explode, burying her face in her hands and whispering that this whole situation was a total disaster. Her face was turning so red, it was almost cartoonish. She started freaking out about the message she sent our protagonist, worrying it was way too cold and boring. She got mad at herself for not adding cute stuff or emojis, thinking he would just see it as some lame business note. The dude teased her, asking if she was in love with this guy or what. Hatsuka denies it, shouting that it was only business, nothing else. But deep down, the real problem was something else. Suddenly, she let out a huge scream, admitting that she was actually a super fan before she ever thought about being his manager. She couldn't stop herself from getting nervous around him. The manager tried to calm her down, but then he remembered the Thunder skill, that legendary move that only Subaru Narukami ever had. The woman jumped in, saying that now it wasn't just him, it was plural, meaning someone else had the skill too. Her coworker was just happy they still had their jobs after all the madness. The manager started thinking hard, saying it made sense. No one else had ever learned that skill before, and this new player deserved to be watched very closely. Suddenly, Seong-hyun's phone buzzed. She screamed with happiness, announcing that Subaru Narukami actually read their email. But then her whole face froze. He read it, but didn't reply at all. Oof. The other two just stared at her, totally feeling bad for her awkwardness. Elsewhere, in a high-tech studio, a new player entered the chat. This guy was Hawkeye, a super famous streamer who broke down player fights like a pro. He had his setup ready, reviewing highlight clips and throwing down sharp takes on all the top tower climbers. He pointed out Kurokawa Amon, a rising star in Kazuki's Blue Zone Guild, and even mentioned our archenemy himself, who everyone knew used to be in Blue Eyes. But today, this broadcaster said the big focus was the legend, Subaru Narukami. He told his followers that, no matter what people said, the lightning skill was something only he could really own. The stream went live, and he welcomed his viewers, saying they were about to dive into the most insane player around. He pulled up our hero's latest fights and asked everyone not to judge too soon. But, bro, even this creator was shocked. He started sweating as he watched, whispering that this player's focus was off the charts. He explained that our boy just picked up the thunder skill, but was already using it like a genius, with control that most people could only dream of. Every move was perfect. No wasted energy, no mistakes. This streamer just stared at the screen, asking where the hell this monster even came from. He told his chat that most of them didn't even get how legendary the stuff on screen really was. And that's where things stood. Our MC made history, and everyone, from fans to haters to pro analysts, couldn't believe what they just saw. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the pro analyst dude, this guy was sitting in his studio, looking all serious, and told everyone watching that this new boy, yeah, our hero, was definitely going to be famous. Hawkeye said he was going to keep his eyes on him from now on. But right before he turned off his stream, he got all dramatic, his eyes shining, and claimed that, when it came to skill and control, this new player might actually be even better than the Subaru Narukami from back in the day. Bro, that's some wild praise. Switch scenes. Our MC woke up on his bed in the tower's break room, breathing heavy, like he had just finished a marathon. The system popped up some messages, announcing that stage 6 was ready, and all his physical exhaustion was gone. But even with a fresh body, our boy thought his brain still felt totally fried, so he decided to hit pause on the next round. He grabbed his device and thanked everyone for watching his stream. Surprised to see he had 742 viewers, he was just wondering when that number got so high. Our protagonist apologized to his fans, telling them he was taking a day off and would be back streaming the day after tomorrow. The system confirmed he ended his live, and then he walked out. He made his way to the waiting area, checking his phone as he went. There was a message from Hatsuka at Suiten Entertainment, thanking him for his time and telling him to check his inbox. She said her company supported streamers and could get them the best profits. Our boy squinted at the phone, thinking maybe this was just some random spam. The name Suiten Entertainment sounded weird to him. Next thing, we got Subaru chilling at a fancy cafe, drinking coffee and scrolling his phone. He started searching for info on Suiten Entertainment and found out that it was actually a huge company, running tons of streamer channels and throwing down big cash to support them. Our MC just sat there, amazed at how much the world had changed. Like, now there were entire companies just to help gamers stream for cash. Our protagonist realized that Suiten was a serious top industry player in the entertainment game. While reading, he saw that the chat was still blowing up about the streamer's take on his skills. People were arguing like crazy. Some thought he was Hawkeye's next big star, others weren't buying it, saying a newbie couldn't be better than the old our hero, and a few started accusing the creator of being biased towards Suiten. Our boy realized this dude actually worked with Suiten while reading all that chaos. That made our MC blush a little, but he felt happy about it, thinking, this guy really did have an eye for talent. Meanwhile, outside the cafe, there was Isaac, the rich punk who always had beef with Subaru. This asshole was gripping his phone, scowling as he read Hawkeye's words about the new our boy possibly being even better than the legend himself. This smug was fuming, thinking our MC was just a nobody who barely made it to the second floor. He cursed the streamer and said he'd gouge the guy's eyes out once he finished this zone himself. Isaac shoved open the cafe door, grumbling that his day was pure trash, but then he spotted our protagonist sitting inside. Of course, he got all sarcastic, wondering if he was cursed, since our hero kept popping up everywhere. This bastard strutted over, acting like a total jerk. He slammed right into Subaru's table on purpose, knocking hot coffee all over our hero's clothes. Our boy jumped up, burning from the heat. This idiot acted fake nice, saying it was his bad, and then fake surprise at seeing our MC. He kept taunting, saying they kept running into each other, and joked that the second floor was way too small. Then he tried to buy our protagonist another coffee, but made it clear he thought our hero was broke and should feel grateful for anything at all. But Subaru? He just ignored him and started to leave. This dumbface didn't like that at all. He yelled at our boy to stop, and when our MC turned and gave him a cold, dead-eyed stare, this bastard got super mad. This fool called our boy scum, grabbed him by the collar, pulled him close, and threatened to beat him down, saying he'd crush that attitude just like in the old days. But our protagonist just stayed chill, told him he didn't have time for his nonsense, and grabbed this asshole's hand, yanking it off his shirt. Our boy squeezed hard enough to make this smug face twist in pain. Guess someone didn't expect our hero to be that strong now. Our hero told him to consider it payment for the spilled coffee, thanked him for the treat, and just walked away. Bro, that was ice cold. Isaac totally lost it, screaming at Subaru to come back as our hero just left the cafe. This smug nearly exploded, saying he only wanted to climb the tower in peace for once. Then he started muttering to himself, furious about both Narukami Subaru and Hosoi Subaru, saying they both drove him up the wall. On the other side, our protagonist looked at his tablet and remembered something important. He pulled out his phone and sent a message. Far away, Atsuka was chilling in her bathtub with her rubber duck when she got a surprise message from our boy. He promised they'd meet soon, and you could tell it got her all hyped. Back to the action, Subaru headed into a creepy, wet dungeon called the Exiled Lizardman's Hideout. The place was full of monster corpses lying in nasty water. Our boy walked into the boss's room with his sword glowing and ready for a big fight. The system let him know that his Wedge of Greed skill was holding back the cursed sword's wild energy, while our hero told himself he was finally getting used to this new body. Suddenly, the boss showed up, a giant fire salamander monster, shrieking so loud the walls shook. Our MC decided to play it smart this time, testing out his thunder ability to see just how much power he could handle without another accident. He started charging his energy, focusing on pushing his max output higher. For a second, it looked like the old Subaru and his new self overlapped, like a ghost from the past. And that's where our MC stood, about to throw down with another boss, smarter, stronger, and ready to show the world what he could really do. Then, he was standing in the nasty, dark boss room, sword ready and glowing with thunder energy. Lightning started to twist all around his blade, making the cursed sword even scarier than usual. Our hero didn't waste any time. He jumped forward with some insane speed, basically flying right through the fire and smoke, smashing into the monster's attack like a real beast. The system started freaking out, throwing up red warnings that his Wedge of Greed skill couldn't handle the full recoil from all that thunder power. But hey, the skill leveled up a bit anyway, so something good came out of it. Even when his whole body screamed in pain, our boy just kept going and, with one huge swing, sliced the salamander boss clean in half. There was a giant explosion and a ton of energy everywhere. Ding, ding, ding. The system dropped some good news. Dungeon cleared. Level up. More strength, vitality, and magic points for our MC. Subaru dragged himself out of that dark swamp, heading back into the forest. He checked his stats and noticed the stamina drain actually wasn't as bad as he thought. The fatigue number was at 61, so he figured he could push his energy output higher next time and survive. But he still felt a little bit nervous, probably because it looked way too easy. Then he glanced at the upgrade cost for the Wedge of Greed skill and nearly had a heart attack. The system wanted 40,000 credits just for the next level, and every level up after that would take double the points. That was brutal. Our MC just sighed, wishing for a miracle or maybe a rich sponsor to drop out of the sky and solve his money problems. But of course, instead of a sponsor, someone else showed up. Subaru suddenly felt someone nearby and stopped. He turned around and, what a surprise, not really. It was Isaac, coming out of the trees with that annoying grin. Ah shit, here we go again. This guy asked if our hero was off to go monster hunting, but you could tell he wasn't here for small talk. He walked over with way too much confidence, saying that even though they'd known each other a long time, our protagonist still managed to surprise him. Our MC just looked at him with that cold face, thinking this guy was way too stubborn and seriously annoying. This bastard admitted he'd thought about things for a while, but he just couldn't hold back his anger anymore. So, he decided it was time to settle things right here. Our MC, he didn't look scared at all. He just smirked and acted like this was the least interesting thing that happened to him all week. Meanwhile, somewhere in the city at night, Hawkeye was strolling along the street and went into his usual cafe. As he came in, someone called his name. He turned and saw the suit and company manager sitting behind him, saying he'd finally tracked this guy down. They sat together, and the streamer said it had been a while since they last met. The manager asked how live streaming was going these days. This guy explained that the viewer numbers were steady, since it was mostly the same faces every time. The manager took a sip of coffee and said, slow growth was the healthiest and most stable way to grow an audience. This dude put his coffee down and asked what the real reason for this meeting was. Nobody just shows up out of nowhere for tea. The manager got serious and said he wanted to talk about Narukami Subaru, the rookie Hawkeye reviewed yesterday. He asked if this guy really meant all that praise. This streamer didn't hesitate. He said with confidence that this rookie had more raw talent than the original Narukami Subaru at his peak. But, with one sharp look and that weird glowing eye, he explained that having talent and actually climbing the tower to those crazy heights were two totally different things. The manager smiled, saying this dude's honesty was exactly what he needed. He then revealed that he wanted to recruit our MC for the agency. This creator laughed, calling his boss smart, but warned him that our hero's view count and popularity were still teeny tiny for a huge company like Soughton. The manager just put his cup down and told him that hearing this guy's confidence was all the proof he needed. He planned to do a joint stream, Hawkeye and Subaru together, to boost our protagonist's numbers and get his name out there. The manager grinned, saying only the two of them knew about this secret strategy. Anyway, back in the dark forest, Subaru was locked in a stare down with Isaac. This asshole started mocking him, saying that surviving the dungeon was just dumb luck and that maybe our protagonist had just run away before getting hurt. He looked at our boy with that classic, I'm better than you, look, and warned him not to start thinking he was the real Narukami Subaru or dreaming about learning thunder. Skills. This bastard's anger started boiling over as he spat out some curses about Narukami Subaru, then grabbed our poor guy by the shoulder like he wanted to rip his arm off. He said if our hero were dead, he should just stay dead and rot in his grave. This smug's eyes went red with fury as he said that everyone named Subaru somehow knew how to make him lose his mind. Subaru just sighed, kind of sad, thinking about how his own era ended, and now the tower was full of copycats and fakes. So, he decided to just ask Isaac straight up, what was his problem? Was this all just because of his name? Our hero said it was weird to hate a name everyone liked so much. Well, that set this bastard off. He yelled back, asking if our MC was really asking that while knowing who his father was. Our boy just stared at him, totally unimpressed, and wondered what this fool's dad had to do with anything, saying this guy always brought his father up for no reason. This man told him his father's name was Reinhardt. Out of nowhere, the name Reinhardt hit Subaru like a truck. He remembered that man, the high ranker from the 9th floor. People called him the one-strike swordsman. Suddenly, old memories came flooding back. News spreading like wildfire in the tower about an earthling named Narukami Subaru who took down that warrior in one hit. The whole battle lasted less than 30 seconds. Our hero remembered that swordman, bleeding and screaming, trying to keep fighting before he finally fell into a giant crater left by our boy's attack. Wild times, bro. Back in the present, Isaac started screaming like a maniac, calling our protagonist a bastard and telling him never to say that name lightly again. That's when our boy finally pieced things together. This whole grudge was because this dude's dad lost his title to the legendary Subaru, not because of anything our MC actually did. Honestly, that's rough. Imagine living in someone else's shadow your whole life. Our poor guy didn't even ask for this drama. He stood there, glaring at Isaac with a sharp, pissed-off look. Our hero told this bastard straight up that he had no idea how much the real Hosoi Subaru had suffered because of Isaac's dumb grudge. But this smug just freaked out, shouting at our MC to shut up if he was going to talk nonsense. Flames started swirling all around this fool, making him look like a human torch ready to blow up the whole forest. This stupid guy yelled that he was done talking and our protagonist should just hurry up and die already. As the fire got hotter, Isaac screamed that he hated Narukami Subaru so much it made him sick. He kept whining, saying our hero wasn't even a special guy, but he still got all the fame and acted like he was better than everyone. This bastard blamed our boy, claiming that his arrogance is the cause of the deaths of all the blue-eyed members. With a crazy, evil grin, Isaac said that they were already rotting in hell and that this was the punishment they deserved. Then, boom, this idiot hurled a huge fireball straight at our hero, saying that being called our boy was the end of his luck. The fireball exploded with a giant bang, and everything went up in smoke and flames. This dumbface put his hand on his face, pretending to be all sad about losing control of his power, and acted sorry for killing our poor MC like that. He stared at his burning hand and, like a total psycho, decided his next target would be that masked streamer everyone was talking about. But, surprise! A voice called out from inside the fire, asking which masked one Isaac was talking about. This smug spun around, shocked, as the flames split right down the middle. Our protagonist strolled out of the burning mess, not even a scratch on him, holding his mask and asking with a cold tone if this fucking dude meant this mask. This fool jaw basically hit the floor. He couldn't believe it. He started stuttering, saying it was impossible for our boy to survive all that fire. But our hero didn't give him time to think. He dashed forward, slammed his fist into Isaac's stomach to shut him down. He even called Isaac a bratty little kid. Yeah, you deserve it, asshole. After receiving that crazy blow, that poor bastard groaned as if he had just been hit by a truck. Our protagonist forced him to the ground, and this smug screamed in agony, and spitting up blood, and totally confused about how a weak guy could hit this hard. Our hero stood over him, looking down, and hit him with a simple question. Who did Isaac see now? Was it Hosoi Subaru, the one he used to bully and make cry? Or was it the masked streamer, Narukami Subaru? And then, our boy's eyes lit up with that wild blue glow, as he added a third option, Narukami Subaru from the Blue Eyes Guild, the original one. This bastard tried to get up, coughing and shaking, refusing to fall for this. He figured our boy was just admitting to being the streamer. This stupid guy managed to power up again, acting almighty as fire burst from his hands, and said that the thunder skill wasn't that awesome if a loser like our MC could use it. He shaped his hand into a fiery claw and sneered, asking if Subaru really thought he could win at this level. He even bragged that if a weakling learned thunder, then he must be way stronger than the original Narukami Subaru. He charged in, swinging his flaming claw, screaming in our hero's face about how awesome he was. But our hero wasn't having it. Subaru moved like lightning and, in one blink, sliced off Isaac's hand with his sword. Isaac stared at his arm, totally shocked. Subaru walked up to him, cold as ice, and told him his answer was wrong. He said he was amazed at how much garbage Isaac could talk, while being so far from the truth. Suddenly, Isaac froze. He realized something was way off. He remembered our boy's earlier words about suffering because of some stupid family grudge. Our protagonist put his sword to Isaac's throat, and with pure rage, told this dumbface to never talk about his old friends like that again. This fool's eyes went wide with terror, and he muttered in a shaky voice as he finally realized it. The guy standing over him really was Blue Eyes Narukami Subaru. But our hero didn't let him finish. He cut him off, saying playtime was over. With one smooth, deadly move, our boy ended it. This fool staggered, blood spraying everywhere, and our MC told him coldly that he did him a big favor. Then he walked away from the burning battlefield, leaving this stupid guy's broken body behind, and told him to consider this payback for letting our MC take this new body. Yikes, that was savage. The next day, we're in a totally different place, a quiet cafe. One of the workers watched Subaru from a distance, feeling nervous and wondering if he was just some crazy superfan of Narukami Subaru. She scolded herself for thinking that, noticing that our boy seemed to be streaming right now. Meanwhile, our hero sat there planning out his next move as a streamer, thinking that not showing his real face was actually a genius move, since it stopped enemies from finding out who he was. Hatsuka, the manager, finally showed up, blushing hard as she apologized for being late. She introduced herself with a nervous smile, saying she was the manager in charge. Our MC shook her hand and introduced himself as Narukami Subaru. She kept staring at his mask, thinking to herself just how much he looked like the real, legendary Narukami Subaru, and even wondered if maybe, just maybe, he really was back. But she also worried that maybe he was just another fake, hiding his face for a reason. So, here's where things get a little wild for our hero. Hatsuka, the manager, was just sitting there, totally lost in her own anxious thoughts about the meeting. Suddenly, our hero snapped her out of it by asking in a loud voice if anything was wrong. The poor girl practically jumped out of her seat, bro. Right away, her mind flashed back to her boss, yelling at her to give a good first impression and act trustworthy, basically, not to mess up like, well, Exactly what she just did. Talk about pressure. While this woman was busy silently screaming inside, our boy broke the silence again, asking if she was a fan of the old Narukami Subaru. She didn't even hesitate. She answered super quickly and with crazy passion, saying she was a mega fan. Our protagonist had to try and chill her out a little, explaining that he wasn't the real guy from back then, and even joked that he was younger than her. But then she surprised our MC by saying she was a big fan of him too, the new version. Turns out, she wasn't joking. Atsuka started rattling off details about his streams, like some kind of pro stalker. She said she was his very first viewer, all the way back when he had 0 people watching. She remembered when he beat the bat, passed Greg's trial, and even picked the lightning path. Our hero honestly couldn't believe how much she remembered. Some of it, he'd even forgotten himself. Our boy found himself smiling under the mask, thinking back to those clueless early days, and even admitted he was impressed that she was there from the start. Atsuka, all fired up, clenched her fist and said she felt like this was fate, bro. That's why she went straight to the company and begged them to let her be his manager. You gotta respect the hustle. She pulled herself together and got all businesslike again, pulling out the contract she prepared. She started summarizing all the details, saying they'd help make clips and ads from his streams to pump up the Narukami name. Our MC, wanting to know what the catch was, asked what he had to do. This lady kept it simple, just keep streaming like he was now. That's all they wanted. Our MC was honestly shocked. He thought, wait, being a streamer is this chill? So this woman explained that it was only like that because he was the first guy to master the lightning skill, and everyone at the company, even the big boss, was totally impressed with him. Our hero kept looking through the contract, then asked if all the managers at the companies were like her. But this lady got it twisted and thought he was asking if the other managers were weird like her. She got all flustered, admitting that everyone else at the company was probably more reliable than her. Our boy had to cut in and clarify that he didn't mean that at all. Then he looked at her more closely and noticed she had a pretty powerful aura, which got him thinking. Was it normal for a regular manager to have that kind of skill level? Meanwhile, this lady was straight up dying inside, thinking she'd blown it. But our protagonist realized something important. The fact that even business managers were this strong meant the enemies he'd fight from now on would be way tougher. No more breaks for our MC. He'd have to keep moving fast. So, there's Hatsuka, sitting at the cafe, her face tomato red from all the nerves, trying so hard to look professional. But she was also freaking out, worried that our boy might reject the deal. It got so bad that she even started thinking maybe she could just force him to sign, which sounded a little nuts. But right then, our MC walked up and held out his hand for a handshake. She got so startled, she actually jumped out of her seat and freaked out, completely losing her cool. Our boy just sat down, calm as ever, and politely asked her to look after him from now on. Hatsuka saw his shining eyes behind the mask, and instead of being professional, she basically lost it. She grabbed his hand and started crying and yelling that she should be the one asking him that. Man, what a scene. He instantly had 703 viewers. Messages started blowing up the chat, people welcoming him and asking questions about the mask. Our boy noticed right away that he was drawing way more people than usual. He realized it was thanks to all the advertising and pre-promotion Hatsuka had done. Not wasting any time, he picked up his phone and got serious, announcing that the 6th stage was starting, and this one was called The Legend. Big moves, bro. Then the story jumped to a dark, rainy night in the middle of a gloomy forest camp. Rain hammered down on tents and piles of weapons. Inside the biggest tent, a bunch of armored knights were gathered around a planning table. Commander Pella suddenly spoke up, wanting to know where their savior was. One of the knights wasn't buying it. He straight up doubted that a random stranger could beat the giant boss alone, and said maybe this guy had been fooled or maybe the monster wasn't even the real leader, just some weakling. Well, Pellis wasn't having any of that. He got mad and yelled at his men for talking smack about the guy who saved him. Just then, the tent flap opened, and our protagonist walked in with the commander's aide, who said with a grin that their savior was awake and here. The captain rushed over, super grateful, and told everyone that thanks to our MC, he could walk normally again. But the other knights weren't convinced. They watched our hero with major side-eye, whispering about how he didn't look strong and that his mask was pretty sus. Our protagonist totally noticed all their dirty looks and icy attitudes. He called them out, cold as ice, saying it seemed like they either didn't believe he really beat the monster, or maybe they just didn't want to believe it was possible. He remembered something, too. Hatsuka had told him she tweaked his microphone so only people watching the stream could hear him, which, honestly, is a pretty sweet trick for boring meetings like this one. But things didn't go smoothly. He got ticked off by how rude the knights were acting, like, hello, he literally saved them, and they were still talking down to him. The chat went wild, clowning on the knights and telling our MC not to take them too lightly. But then this old dude with a gray beard and a super boss vibe, Dale, stepped up. This old knight gave our hero a handshake and did the whole thank you routine, a kind of formality. He told him, all sad, that he'd been protecting the village, but everyone just got trampled. Our boy was like, wait, trampled? He straight up asked if this leader was for real about that. But this old guy just got darker and scarier, saying that it was the work of that monster. Yikes. Then our protagonist stared this old man down, totally serious, and asked if there was really someone out there more dangerous than the giant boss he'd just smacked down. That old knight didn't even hesitate. He just gave a simple yes, and our MC knew things were about to get crazy. Dale started story time, telling this old legend about the real giants. He said the original giants fought the gods, then got sealed away and disappeared from the world. The ones around now? Just weak remnants, like shadows of the real deal. But then this old guy got spooked just talking about the new leader. He said, the one that showed up after our hero killed the last boss was almost as strong as those ancient monsters. Even this old knight looked freaked out, admitting he'd never seen anything like it. The chat exploded. Viewers were losing their minds, asking if this was basically an 8th floor boss, and how they were supposed to fight something like that. Subaru didn't flinch though. He just said they had to beat it, plain and simple. This leader shot him a weird grin, kind of mocking how confident Subaru sounded, like he was way too full of himself. The knights started looking pretty nervous, and one of them coldly pointed out that they were only asking our protagonist for help because they had no other options. But honestly, he didn't think anyone could actually pull it off. He said that, yeah, the reason they sounded so hopeless was that none of them had actually seen the monster up close. Suddenly, Pelus jumped in, basically yelling. He started talking about an ancient legend about Millennium Mountain, the highest peak around. He said there was a thing called a fragment of lightning hidden up there, and that Subaru might be the only person who could find it as they were talking about this legend. Then, the day the apocalypse comes, the giants attacked the town, destroying anything in front of it. Fire everywhere, people running and screaming as the giants destroyed everything. In the middle of the burning hell, a giant with long, wild hair and a seriously scary vibe stood there, acting like he owned the place. The giant boss is angry because his son, Paydal, has been killed by the humans. Yeah, that's our MC's doing. He avenges his son by massacring the people. One knight tried to beg, but the giant just snatched him up and crushed him to death, and terrified everyone that he would kill all humans as a sacrifice to his deceased son. Honestly, it was nightmare fuel. High above it all, our boy was watching, his eyes looking sharply from behind his mask. The stream chat blew up even more, going nuts over how huge this monster was, asking if this was what a real giant looked like. So, our hero didn't waste time. He jumped on his horse and took off into the brutal rainstorm, thinking hard about how this test wasn't playing around. It was actually trying to kill them all. Our MC remembered what the knight said earlier. The giants were coming in 3 days, and if he couldn't find the fragment of lightning by then, he should just run for his life. But our protagonist had already made up his mind. He knew he needed that lightning power. Without it, there was no way to beat these giants. They'd all be dead meat. As he rode through the storm, some chats popped up asking if he wanted to retry. Our boy just answered no, totally confident, saying there was no test in this tower he couldn't clear. He didn't even realize he'd just dropped a classic old catchphrase, but the chat noticed right away and started roasting him for being too cocky. While the quests and donations from viewers started rolling in, a random viewer gave a mission. If our body could beat this trial, he would drop 3,000 credits on him. Our hero felt a bit relieved. At least he hadn't completely given himself away by using that famous line. He charged up the mountain with his horse, pushing through the crazy rain and rocks. When he finally got to the foot of Millennium Mountain, he hopped off, looked up, and told himself the lightning fragment had to be somewhere in there. He reached out, touched the cold rocks, and felt just how huge and intimidating the place was. At that point, his memory flashed back to his talk with Pelus. This knight had told him the lightning fragment was something out of legends, but nobody knew what it really was. A weapon, a power, or maybe even a person. The one thing everyone agreed on was this: whoever held the lightning before was the one who wiped out the giants. Meanwhile, back at Hatsuka's place, she was having her own party. She jumped up, screaming that she finally got the contract signed, and her boss called her, laughing and telling her she was finally reliable. This lady was dancing around, totally hyped about the whole thing. Her boss tried to say he wanted to talk about a meeting with Hawkeye soon, but this woman was so pumped she hung up without even listening. Filled with joy, she threw herself on the bed and told herself she deserved to chill and watch the Subaru stream after working so hard. She grabbed her phone, eyes sparkling, and said that watching him on the screen and seeing him in real life was the ultimate otaku dream. On her phone, the stream showed Subaru saying, with that classic confidence, that there was no test in this tower he couldn't clear. First off, Hatsuka was all hyped in her room, but then her eyes went wide. The excitement on her face faded fast when she realized something. Our hero just dropped a super old catchphrase, one that was famous 20 years ago. She started freaking out, thinking there was no way he said that by accident. The doubt started eating at her, and honestly, who could blame her? That was a big clue, and our hero really slipped up there. Back on the mountain, our boy went full maniac mode. He punched the huge rock wall as hard as he could, over and over. The chat blew up, asking if he had finally lost it or just lost all hope. Our MC didn't care though. He kept smashing his fist into that rock, basically telling the mountain to bring it on and see who would break first. He decided right there. He'd fight this thing to the end, no matter how ridiculous it looked. Every punch sent chips of rock flying and made his fist glow with energy. Then, out of nowhere, a giant crack split the wall, and the rock shattered. Our protagonist flashed that cocky grin, telling everyone he finally found what he was looking for. The comments roasted his muscle brain approach, but our boy just thought to himself that nobody watching the stream could really feel how it was in there. And besides, who said punching wasn't the right answer sometimes? Standing in the pouring rain, our MC suddenly felt this insane lightning energy calling to him, like it was trying to wake up the lightning, sleeping inside him. There in front of him was a massive metal door covered in old, weird carvings. It was clear that whatever was behind that door was the source of the power he needed. The stream chat started freaking out about how huge the door was and asking how he'd open it without a key. Our hero just shrugged and decided to do what he does best: smash things. He fired up his Wedge of Greed skill to level 3 so he wouldn't pass out from recoil, then started charging up his fist with black and gold lightning. He got all fired up, feeling like the real fight was waiting inside. That voice of the lightning kept screaming at him, so he focused all his power and threw a monster punch at the gate, basically yelling his answer back. Boom. The explosion was insane. A golden shockwave went everywhere, making the ground shake. The giant doors blasted open, showing a really dark, long hallway inside the mountain. Our protagonist just walked in like he owned the place, confidence off the charts, while the stream chat was still losing its mind about how he never stopped going forward. As soon as he walked in, the system dropped a message on him saying he just entered the path where lightning walks. And by the way, he couldn't leave until he finished the stage, so basically, he was locked in. Meanwhile, back at the Knights camp, the whole room was tense. The big shots were all sitting around trying to figure out if Subaru could really get the lightning or if they were just completely screwed. Pellis, the main guy, looked super chill, sipping his drink and telling everyone that Subaru would totally pull it off. He said anyone who saw what our hero had already done would know there was no reason to doubt. But the other knights were nervous as hell. One guy stood up, sweating like crazy, screaming that it didn't matter if our MC got the lightning or not, because something way worse was coming for all of them, and death was basically guaranteed. Dude was shaking, blood on his thumb from biting it, eyes about to pop out. He started shouting at this leader, saying he had no idea how terrifying that giant monster actually was. Pellis tried to calm him down, saying they couldn't just sit and wait for the end. They had to put their faith in their young hero who was risking everything for them, even though he got nothing out of it. The terrified knight just stared, clearly not buying it. Suddenly, a cup fell off the table, and the ground started shaking like crazy, full-on earthquake vibes. A soldier sprinted in, screaming that the thing had arrived, and the whole tent went dead silent. I mean, talk about bad timing. Back at the mountain, our MC walked deeper into the creepy cave, wondering what this test was even about. Viewers noticed there weren't any monsters or traps, just a weird empty space, and people in the chat started asking what was up with that. Subaru's golden eye glowed. Dude was using his brain now. He realized that lightning was too fast to see, and before a real lightning strike, all you get are electric charges floating everywhere. So it actually made sense not to see anything in there. He closed his eyes, finally getting the true meaning of this path where lightning walks. He could feel the super strong lightning energy calling him from somewhere deep inside. Suddenly, our protagonist picked up a rock and chucked it down the cave. The chat went wild, trying to guess what he was up to. Our hero explained in his head that you couldn't see the lightning because it was everywhere in the air, totally invisible. The rock he threw started sizzling and falling apart from all the electricity. The more he walked, the crazier the reaction got. Rocks just blew up into dust from electric shocks. Invisible thunderbolts smashed around him, and the chat was freaking out from all the crazy sounds they could hear but not see. Subaru finally understood what was happening. Even though he knew he was in real danger, he mumbled to himself that he had to keep pushing forward, calling the test design straight up nasty. He took off running, realizing this was all about endurance. If he couldn't take it, he'd be toast. As he ran through the hallway, someone donated 100 credits, sarcastically asking what he was scared of. More donations kept rolling in. One dropped 1,000 credits, another suggested he stop because it was dangerous, and a third hyped him up with 2,000 credits. Even in the middle of all that chaos, our boy Subaru remembered to thank his supporters, his eyes shining with determination. Meanwhile, in Ashigura's cabin, we're in this cozy little wooden cabin where this guy was totally chilling out on the sofa. The dude was just relaxing with a pot boiling on the fire. But then, bam, Rina walked in, catching him completely off guard. He freaked out and quickly tried to hide his device like he was hiding some big secret. This woman saw all of this, and you could see the sly grin show up on her face. She asked why he was hiding things, and basically accused him of watching something naughty. This man started mumbling and stuttering, trying to act cool by saying he wasn't hiding anything, and his eyes were just tired. Yeah, nice try, bro. Rina clearly didn't buy any of that. She sat next to him with this teasing attitude, dropping a line about how hair grows faster if you do those things. That made Ashen Hair totally lose it. He screamed at her to stop saying weird stuff. Man, the poor guy looked so done. Then, this lady just started eating a piece of bread, saying she had stopped watching the stream like he asked her. But honestly, she just couldn't help herself. This dude asked what she wanted, still acting all tense, but this woman called him out for being so jumpy and wondered if he didn't want her around. Just then, Subaru's voice started blasting out of Ashen Hair phone, saying he would endure it and do his best. That made this guy panic even more. He yelled at this lady about her annoying teasing, which almost made her ears explode. She covered her ears, complaining about his sudden yelling, while this man scrambled to put his phone on silent and told her not to pay any attention to him. Rina just stared at him, totally weirded out and suspicious, calling him stubborn and a weirdo. After that, she got bored and stood up, saying the whole situation was annoying. This poor dude got desperate and asked her where she was going, basically begging her to stay, and even offering her more bread or a spot to lie down, anything to keep her from leaving and maybe exposing him. But this lady was already done and walked out, slamming the door behind her. Shigure let out this massive sigh of relief, muttering that he almost got caught. Turns out, the guy was watching our boy's live stream the whole time on his tablet. He was talking to himself, saying if Rina found out, she'd lose her mind, and he didn't even want to think about it. Looking at the screen, he got a little sad, thinking that if things had been different, the real Subaru would never have forgotten about his friends like this. On the screen, our protagonist started explaining how deadly the lightning test was. Ashen Hair smiled, noticing how this streamer's personality and way of talking were just like the old Subaru he used to know. But then he grumbled that the only thing different was that our boy never cared about collecting credits like some desperate maniac. This guy even laughed a little at how weird this all was. Suddenly everything went dark. A creepy hand landed on Shigure's shoulder. Dude looked like he was about to die of shock. He turned around to find Rina standing behind him with this evil, scary grin, asking if he really thought she didn't notice what he was doing. Her face went full demon mode as she told him it was way too soon for him to try to trick her. Our dude was in big trouble now. Back inside Millennium Mountain, things got way more intense. The system sent a message to our protagonist, telling him to carve the path of lightning. He was sweating like crazy, totally focused, standing right in the middle of an electric storm. Thunderbolts were smashing him, and the lightning started gathering around his whole body. The progress bar on his test showed a tiny 2.3%, which was just depressing. Our boy stretched out his hand, lightning glowing around it, feeling right at home since he'd done this kind of thing a million times in his past life. He managed to endure the electric shock, his eyes flashing behind that mask, but the progress bar barely moved. Now Now it was at 3.2%. The road was long, and every step made the lightning attacks hurt even more. The chat was blowing up. People asking why he wasn't running or begging him to hurry up and end this pain. But our protagonist was already covered in wounds, his body under crazy pressure, and he had to just ignore the comments. He couldn't even read them anymore. He was in survival mode now. Our hero told himself that just finishing the test wasn't good enough for him. He wanted something way bigger. He was aiming for a goal way higher than just surviving. Lightning energy was glowing all around him as he resolved to go for something legendary. Meanwhile, in the mysterious room, Hawkeye was sitting in front of a bunch of screens, watching Subaru's stream. He remembered his talk with President John, who wanted him to team up with Narukami Subaru. This dude was thinking about how rare it was for this guy to manage things himself. This leader had given him this classic lecture, saying that in the world of entertainment, hard work was only half of it. The other half was about status and how people see you. This streamer got cocky, throwing out that it was all about who are your connections and what most people are looking for right now. But this president pointed out that our MC's streams didn't look like normal beginner stuff. They looked like the vlogs of pros who'd been at it for years. He encouraged this guy to just do his usual commentary, saying this was a once-in-a-lifetime shot and he needed to jump on it. Hawkeye started getting fired up, thinking about how he could become a superstar right alongside our protagonist. He admitted that he became a streamer and quit from climbing the tower because he wasn't good enough. Inside, he was just screaming to be better than everyone else. He pictured the night sky full of stars, always wishing he could be one of them, reaching out and wondering if he could ever become a legend himself. Suddenly, he totally freaked out, screaming so loud it looked like he was going to fall out of his chair. His eyes bugged out of his head, and sweat poured down his face. The dude just couldn't believe what he was seeing. Subaru do. He even yelled out, asking if this guy was actually sane. Honestly, I get it. What our boy did next was next level nuts. Inside the cave, our hero was getting absolutely roasted by lightning. He started screaming in pain, and the whole place looked like some kind of hell. Blood was dripping down his face as he staggered forward, lightning just hammering him nonstop. But the poor guy stomped his foot hard on the ground and refused to go down. He was stubborn as hell, still moving forward even when it looked like he might drop dead at any second. Right then, he figured out what this test was really about. The stronger the lightning, the deeper it hit inside his body. And, bro, the amount of energy blasting him was nuts. But our MC decided that was exactly what he needed for his crazy plan. Suddenly, blue energy lines started to glow inside his body. The system popped up a message about some tiny micro-meridians in his body, those little channels even in his heart, finally filling up with lightning. Our protagonist watched the progress bar shoot up to 20.7%, and a glowing map of his body appeared, showing all the energy flowing inside. The system told him that the micro-meridians were being activated, and lightning was settling in, which made his magic go up by 1 point. Our boy clenched his glowing fist and told himself he was going to master this power, no matter what. He reminded himself that the Ren and Du channels were the main roads in the body, and the micro-meridians were like all the little side streets connecting everything together. He kept pushing forward in the middle of the storm, the energy now filling every corner of his body. He realized the original Hosoi Subaru's body had never gone through this purification before. So, our MC was now basically forcing a shortcut with a lightning-powered cleanse, which led to the system slapping him with a nasty new status called electric shock. Usually, people do this slowly and carefully with their own magic, but our boy was just letting lightning do it for him. It made things way faster, sure, but the pain was absolutely insane. Our hero could barely stand, his whole body shaking, blood splattering on the ground. He was getting shocked so hard, I don't know how he stayed conscious. Meanwhile, in her room, Hatsuka was glued to her phone, staring at the live stream. Her eyes went wide when she finally got what our boy was trying to do. She started muttering to herself, saying he was actually trying to open his micro-meridians in a place like this, and in the craziest, most suicidal way possible. She put a hand on her head, freaking out, and realized the pain he must be going through was way beyond what normal people could take. Most people would have just fainted a dozen times by now. Even if losing here didn't kill you in real life, she knew the pain felt 100% real to our protagonist. She bit her lip, super anxious, and wondered why anyone would go this far just to get stronger. Back in the storm, the system said our MC's progress hit over 50.3%, but it was obvious he was barely hanging on. His foot moved forward, but it looked like every step took everything he had. The pain was so bad that it started messing with his head. That's when he started blaming himself, mumbling that he was the one who caused everything bad to happen, that it was all his fault, his friends died. The cave faded away, and suddenly our hero was in a memory, standing in a wild snowstorm in front of his old teammates. He remembered bragging to them, full of confidence, saying there was no test he couldn't beat. He saw all of his old friends, trusting him completely. He remembered telling them not to worry, that he'd win no matter what. But then, the memories overlapped with the real pain. Our protagonist started beating himself up for what happened, convinced that his big mouth and arrogance got everyone killed. If he hadn't been so full of himself, maybe none of that tragedy would have ever happened. Suddenly, Kazuki showed up in his mind, face covered in blood, wearing this nasty smirk. The bastard started mocking him hard, saying they all failed because our MC was too arrogant and thought he was a big shot. That just broke our boy, and he screamed in the storm, lightning all around him, finally admitting that everything was his fault. He collapsed, totally spent, reaching out with his shaking hand. His guilt just kept torturing him, those memories crashing in over and over. Then, just like that, everything changed. Our hero found himself standing in a sunny green field under a perfect blue sky. He looked around, confused, a gentle wind blowing his hair. Off in the distance, he spotted his old friends sitting together under a huge tree. His jaw dropped, and he ran toward them as fast as he could, full of hope. He thought maybe all the terrible stuff was just a nightmare. When he reached them, he put his hand on one friend's shoulder, smiling, with tears in his eyes, and told himself this had to be the real world. He wanted so badly for that nightmare to be over, and he tried to tell his friends all about the awful dream he had just had. Well,